Empty eyes. Wounds crusted shut. Some still had arrows sticking out of them. Couldn't tell if they were sleeping or dead. Win 1. Total annihilation of 500 Sark cavalry. But the cost? His 750 elite light cavalry. Gone. Nearly every single one. 4 out of 5 family knights, dead. Silent victory. The kind nobody celebrates. The northern pursuit wasn't cheap either. 200 Imperial knights chased 120 Sark riders, expecting an easy cleanup. They were wrong. Those Sark warriors fought like cornered wolves. Not a single one tried to flee. They traded their lives for 17 dead knights and 11 wounded. Everyone's image of Sarks as hit-and-run cowards got permanently revised. These guys fight close range like demons. Their curved swords target vitals with surgical precision, and their one-handed maces crack skulls through helmets. Wen stood up with soldiers supporting him, said nothing, thought whatever he was thinking in complete silence. The troops worship him. They call him a born commander, the embodiment of victory, worth dying for. And that's exactly the problem eating him alive right now. 700 young men used their lives to execute his plan. His glory is built on their graves. He didn't want that math. Nobody does. My brother, the Empire's golden military prodigy, was having his own crisis somewhere on a bloody wasteland while I was about to have mine in a ballroom. Now, the party. Count Bisser's estate. Decorated like the interior of a jewelry box. Expensive carpets on every path. Fresh flowers on every surface. Musicians playing something elegant. Young nobles dripping in silk and gemstones, sipping rare wine, discussing lives that commoners can't even imagine. The hall was buzzing pleasantly until the first disruption. Rascana walked in. Golden hair, blue eyes, pure white suit on a tall frame. The room went, "Who is that?" Whispers everywhere. A few girls went instantly red-faced and were probably mentally naming their future children already. And I'm sure at least one boy in the crowd was staring at the golden stranger with hearts in his eyes. Equal opportunity admiration. Rascana made a splash. But nobody here actually knows him. He grew up in Rose Fortress and only visited the capital a few times under his grandfather's stay invisible policy. Mystery man at a party. Maximum intrigue. Then I walked in. The room detonated. Girls screaming. Actual screaming. Like a medieval boy band just hit the stage. Count Bisser himself was walking beside me, which added political gravity to what was basically a teen idol entrance. Onlan waddled in behind me, but he was as invisible as a shadow behind the sun. Every male in the room shot daggers at me with their eyes. Nothing unites rival noble boys faster than watching their dates forget they exist. Brown hair, blue eyes, long lashes, sharp jaw. Apparently my face is a weapon in social settings. A weapon I never asked for and cannot holster. For girls aged 12 to 16 in this crowd, looks are the only thing that matters. They're all from powerful families themselves, so status doesn't impress them. 4 great families and the royal house are the only names that register, and I've got Mulan stamped on my identity. So now the room has 2 poles of attraction, golden pretty boy Rascana on one end, and me on the other. The guy who tried to kill me and the guy who survived, both attending a teen party, surrounded by shrieking adolescent girls. Somewhere on a blood-soaked plain, my brother is silently mourning 700 dead soldiers. Here, girls are screaming because 2 handsome boys walked into the same room. Same empire. Same night. 2 completely different kinds of battlefield. I know which one I'd rather be on, and it's not this one. First thing I did at the party? Hide. Snuck out to the garden, found a nice fruit tree by an artificial pond, and crouched behind it like a fugitive. My plan was brilliant. Wait until the party was almost over, walk in, show my face for 5 minutes, leave. Mission complete. Dad can't complain. Then I noticed a woman sitting on a bench by another tree, watching the moon. My inner monologue. I am Hades Mulan. Future king. I will not be distracted by beauty. The beauty spoke first. What a handsome boy. Why aren't you inside at the banquet? I was so busy trying to figure out who she was that I forgot to answer. Silence. Crickets. Literal crickets. She tried again. Oh, I see. You're deaf and mute. Poor thing. They must have bullied you. How sad. Oh wait, you can't hear me anyway. She started brainstorming how to communicate with a mentally disabled child through hand gestures. If I had known she thought I was a special needs kid, I would have exploded. But I didn't know yet. So I finally turned to respond, and moonlight. On her. reddish-brown wavy hair falling past her shoulders, purple embroidered dress with a cinched waist, black lace sleeves, pearl necklace with a dark ruby pendant, violet eyes against pale skin, elegant posture, and this tiny hint of playful innocence that you'd never expect on a mature noblewoman. I froze. Me. Hades, I don't do women, Milan. The guy who runs from Barbara, dodges 12-year-old love confessions, and once faked a departure route to escape a crowd of teenage admirers. Frozen, standing there like a brain-dead mannequin staring at a woman in moonlight. Then her silhouette overlapped with a memory. Mom. The body's original memories surged up. This woman looked like my mother. The mother who died 10 years ago at the Windsor River. Beautiful. Gentle. Gone. A tear rolled down my cheek before I even noticed. I pulled myself together and finally spoke like a functioning human. I'm avoiding my father's matchmaking arrangements. I'd rather choose love freely. My name is Hades. I apologize for staring. You reminded me of someone I've lost. She softened. I don't mind. And I should apologize too. She looked slightly embarrassed, which I didn't understand at the time. If I had understood she was apologizing for calling me a deaf-mute idiot child, this conversation would have gone very differently. May I ask your relationship to Count Bisser? Oh, I'm his. What are you doing here, writes boy. Count Bisser materialized behind me like a disapproving uncle conjured by dark magic. Arms crossed. Face of stone. Uncle Bisser, good evening. I, had a fight with Dad before coming and needed fresh air, and I accidentally bumped into this lovely lady. Accidentally? Your father specifically asked me to help tonight, and I will thoroughly take care of you. The way he said, take care, while grinding his teeth told me everything I needed to know about the next few hours of my life. Then Bisser looked at the woman. Go to your room. She stood up and walked away down a stone path. I craned my neck to watch her leave. Smack. Bisser's palm hit the back of my skull. Stop looking. That's my eldest daughter. She's older than your brother Luen. Whatever you're thinking, stop. It's impossible. Oh, I thought she was. You thought what? OW. Stop hitting me. I'm sorry. So the mysterious moonlit beauty was Bisser's daughter. Not his wife. Not a guest. His firstborn. Older than my big brother. Completely off limits. And I had been staring at her like a lovesick puppy while she thought I was mentally handicapped. Peak romance, everybody. Truly a love story for the ages. Bisser dragged me into the main hall by the scruff of my neck, where the party was already in full swing. Rascana had entered first and caused a minor earthquake of whispers. Then Bisser shoved me through the door with Onlon trailing behind, and the girls went absolutely nuclear. The standard noble matchmaking protocol followed. Bisser gave a speech, praised his daughters, paraded them around. Every father with daughters does this. It's basically a livestock auction in silk dresses. The official purpose is finding husbands for the daughters, but really these events became the Empire's biggest speed dating scene. The main candidates are pre-screened, but everyone else comes hoping to pair up with fellow extras. Then came my turn at the center of attention. Girls swarmed me. One by one they'd approach, introduce themselves, turn red, run away. Some confessed feelings. Some shoved gifts into my arms. One brave soul asked for a kissing greeting. I declined, gently, looked her in the eyes and said, I want my first kiss greeting to be saved for the person I truly love. I'm sorry, she didn't cry. She became a superfan, added to the collection. My rejection game actually creates more admirers. There is no escape. Meanwhile, across the room, Rascana was chatting elegantly with other Cosimo-aligned noble heirs. Calm, composed, didn't even glance in my direction. I didn't look at him either. We both know where we stand. He thinks I'm an idiot he'll kill at his convenience. I think he's the idiot because my real opponent was never him. It's been old man Lorenzo since the day I entered Cosimo territory. Two young men at a party, ignoring each other, surrounded by screaming teenagers, both silently planning the other's downfall. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a violet-eyed woman in moonlight still hadn't fully faded. Hades Milan, future king, potion brewer, enchanter, politician, military strategist, and absolutely hopeless when a pretty woman catches him off guard under a fruit tree. Nobody read a book about this. Nobody. Time for some truth about Barbara. The woman who tried to warm my bed, who bathes me in childhood memories I can't unsee, who I've been running from like she's a natural disaster in a maid uniform. She's a professional killer. Not trained by the Milan family either. Her teacher was a wandering female knight on the Crewe Highlands who took up assassination jobs to fund an orphanage. Dozens of war orphans needed food, clothes, and books. The knight's only marketable skill was murder. So she murdered for money and spent every coin on children. The most wholesome assassin origin story ever written. Barbara sought her out after Mom died. When I went silent for 2 years, Barbara made a decision. She would become someone who could protect me. Gave the knight every coin she'd saved for 16 years. Trained for 2 years. Started taking assassination contracts the same year I finally spoke again. 5 years in, master and student became the most feared assassination duo around. Perfect record. 0 failures. Until they ran into a grand night target, barely escaped, refunded the client double, and retired. The knight went home to her orphans. Barbara went back to being my maid. A maid who can kill people. Standing next to me every day, sleeping in the room next door. And I had no idea until she came to my room that night before we left for the capital. She had intelligence. Through channels she didn't explain and I didn't ask about. She'd learned that multiple assassins from different employers had all received contracts pointing to the same region, Cao province. My travel route to the capital goes right through Cao. I spent 1 hour with a map and logic. Step 1. Maybe it's coincidence. Apply hypothetical principle. Assume the worst. Prepare accordingly. Step 2. If Cao province is the target zone, and if it's aimed at me, then someone learned about my barony ceremony fast enough to organize a multi-source assassination. That means someone with high status but low tactical sophistication. Not a calculated institutional decision. An individual acting within a powerful organization. Step 3. Who's threatened by Moonlight Fortress geographically? Count Darian's group around Tuan City? Too small. Too scared of Mulan retaliation. Eliminated. Steel Fortress and Grand Duke Purtis? Dad respects him. Arsa's history confirms he's honorable. Eliminated. That leaves Cosimo family in Cao province. But this isn't old Lorenzo's style. He kills with invisible precision, not sloppy multi-source contracts. So it's not the patriarch. It's someone younger. A son or grandson acting independently. Trying to prove themselves. I figured out it was a Cosimo heir before we even left Rhine City. The entire assassination attempt? I walked into it with my eyes open. Then I leaned close to Barbara and explained my real plan. She freaked out. Let me go instead. This is too dangerous. Just take a different route. Write your father. Eagle territory has plenty of soldiers. Barbara, beautiful big sister. Listen, I'm not the little boy hiding behind you anymore. That kid died. I'm Hades now. A grown man. And from now on, I'm protecting you. I used myself as bait on purpose. Not just to catch whoever was behind it. That's thinking too small. I needed the assassination attempt to happen so Dad would react. So the political chains would trigger. So the Cosimo family would be exposed. So the Hashishin would be redirected. So Peg territory would fall into my hands. So Mark would get his inheritance. So I'd get a Saint Knight's favor from Roland. All of it. Calculated. From that night in my bedroom with a map. Then, and I don't know what came over me, I grabbed Barbara's hand. Looked into her eyes. Thank you for everything you've done all these years. From now on, I'll protect you. Her face went red. Then her nose went red. Then tears started pouring out of her like a dam breaking. Years of carrying guilt about Mom's death. Years of secret assassination work. Years of pretending to be just a silly flirtatious maid. It all came out at once. I pulled her into a hug. Let her cry on my shoulder. Told her what I should have said years ago. Nobody blames you. Not me. Not anyone. Mom wouldn't blame you either. If she knew the 3 of us survived, she'd only be happy. Eileen too. And whoever planned that attack 10 years ago, I will make them pay. No matter who they are. Even the God of Light can't save them. I said so. That night, the killer cried and stopped being a killer. And the little boy held the big girl and finally became the man he needed to be. I'm still going to run when she tries to climb into my bed, though. Some things don't change just because you had an emotional breakthrough. A man has limits. Last day of Imperial Year 497. New moon, night. The Empire's version of New Year's Eve. People light candles, nobles throw parties, everyone drinks until the bells ring. Then it's New Day, the biggest holiday of the year. Visiting, gift-giving, church prayers, bonfires, singing, dancing. Also the day the empire schedules its fanciest ceremonies. Coronations, royal weddings, knight ceremonies, and, lucky me, baronial appointments. Quick education on how knighting works in this empire, because I sat through 5 of them before my turn and needed to stay awake somehow. 3 ways to become an official knight. Serve a lord and get appointed, register at an Imperial Knight Bureau office as an independent, or get knighted by a grand knight or higher. All 3 boil down to, pick a boss, swear loyalty, get your badge. In return you get land, breathing techniques, potions, combat arts, gear, and gold. Very structured, very feudal. Then there are wild knights, people with knight powers who refuse all 3 paths. No obligations, no boss, complete freedom. Also no resources, no support, no backup. Living the dream until you need a healing potion and realize nobody's giving you one for free. The ceremony itself varies. Small lords do it quick and casual. Big lords turn it into a production. Today's was the biggest production possible, inside the Imperial Palace, hosted by the Emperor himself. Emperor Karl Frank de Zendru Erdon Bodman the 19th, because nobody's memorizing that full name. Took the throne at 13 after his dad died young. 31 years later, people still think of him as the young king. But the people in this room, the ones who actually deal with him, know he's already surpassed the previous 3 emperors combined. Little 19 is a shark in a crown. The venue, a main hall inside the royal castle complex. Crystal chandeliers. Red carpet everywhere. Inside, outside, across the courtyard. Royal knight order lined up in the plaza, armor gleaming in the winter sun. 30 invited witnesses, 0 commoners. The 4 golden family heads, 9 imperial ministers and officials, 3 Southern Alliance counts, for Northern noble representatives, and a Red Mountain dwarf representative. Wait, Oleg. Oleg is here. My drinking buddy is representing the dwarf nation at my ceremony? I almost broke character when I spotted him. 5 royal knight ceremonies first. Standard stuff. Biography read aloud. Oath sworn. Armor put on by ceremonial guards. Emperor places sword on the knight's neck and asks, "Will you remember your vow?" Then the new knight walks into the knight order ranks, and everyone punches him in the chest as a reminder, no hitting back allowed. Medieval hazing. Very dignified. Then my turn. The book clerk read my background. I walked up the red carpet toward the golden throne where the emperor sat, feeling every pair of eyes in the room boring into my back. 4 golden family patriarchs watching, including Lorenzo, Blood Rose, Cosimo, the grandfather of the guy who tried to kill me, sitting there like nothing happened. Dad standing with his usual stone face, probably calculating 17 political moves simultaneously. I knelt on one knee, received my baronial badge, swore loyalty to the emperor and the empire, pledged to send troops if the empire is invaded. Standard stuff. Very solemn. Did not crack any jokes. The badge design? I get to pick that later and register it with the noble assembly. Just can't duplicate an existing family's design. I already know what I want, something with a wolf and moonlight. Obviously. The clerk announced, Baron Hades Right Akikin Biondi Mulan, Lord of Moonlight Fortress. My territory officially inked onto the imperial map. Done. Official. I am now, legally and imperially, a baron. I stood up from that knee as a different person than the one who knelt down. Not because a title changes who you are, but because now nobody can take away what I've built without going through the empire to do it. Moonlight Fortress. On the map. In the records. Protected by imperial law. 9 months ago, I was the useless third son, sneaking out of the capital with 30 cavalry and a dream. Now I knelt before the emperor of the most powerful nation on the continent, and he called me Baron. Dad's face didn't change, but I know that man. Somewhere behind that stone mask, he was smiling. Happy New Year, everybody. Imperial Year 498 starts now, and Baron Hades Mulan has work to do. First day of Imperial Year 498. Everyone's hungover from New Day celebrations. Me? I was up at dawn because I have an empire to build and bureaucracy waits for no man. First stop, Noble Assembly. Submitted my territory's coat of arms design. A red moon on a black background. The clerk looked at me like I'd handed him a cursed object. In this world, a red moon means bad omen. Doom. Disaster. Evil. Perfect. That's exactly the energy I'm going for. You see my banner approaching your territory. You should feel uneasy. The clerk stammered but didn't argue. Sent a junior to check the registry for duplicates while he escorted me to his sitting room. Small talk. Compliments. Congratulations on your barony. Eagle Territory coffee is so wonderful. I snapped my fingers at Skin. Skin snapped into action. A wooden crate appeared on the table. The lifetime Viscount peeked inside. Premium roasted coffee beans, packed to the brim. His smile could have lit up the room. My coat of arms was registered in record time. Bureaucracy runs on caffeine. Universal truth across all worlds. Next, the Imperial Parliament building. Rosa Palace, the political heart of the empire. I stood outside staring at it for a long time. 227 seats controlling the fate of the continent. The emperor holds 10 votes plus about 50 more through loyalists. Each golden family block controls 15 to 25. Everyone else fights over the remaining 100. Someday I'll have seats in there. Not today. Today I'm just a baby baron with a scary flag. But someday. Visited Anglin and his father next. Casual family chat. Anglin's dad represents part of the Southern Alliance in Parliament. Politically, our families are enemies. Financially, they grow our coffee. The empire runs on contradictions. Afternoon, Outer South Quarter. The United Trading Association's founding meeting. 15 merchants signed. 2 of the original 17 dropped out. Kofi did heavy lifting convincing the others, but ultimately my conditions sealed the deal. Here's the twist. I didn't attend the signing personally. I sent Eileen and Barbara as my representatives. Both women initially refused. Barbara said she's too rough for business. Eileen said a woman shouldn't be doing public-facing work. I deployed my secret weapon. Puppy eyes and shameless begging until they laughed so hard they agreed to try. The night before, I explained the big picture, goals, structure, desired outcomes. Then they grilled me until dawn with questions. Those two are thorough. When they finally let me sleep, they'd absorbed enough to run a small country. And they crushed it. Eileen handled the main negotiations like she'd been doing it for decades. Barbara dropped strategic comments at key moments. The merchants walked in expecting to deal with a man and walked out impressed by 2 women who out-negotiated them on every point. The deals, massive purchase orders for Moonlight Fortress. 8 orders over 10,000 gold each. 1,000 chest armors, 500 quality steel swords, 1,000 plus farm tool sets, 50 wagons of wheat, 2,000 timber logs, 300 Badal mercenaries, 1,000 serfs, 10 wagons of medicinal herbs and seeds. Payment in gold or medicines, their choice. Kofi personally guaranteed everything. But the real bomb? Night training slots. 10 spots. Send your young men to Moonlight Fortress. We provide awakening potions, breathing techniques, and veteran night instruction. Not free. Earned through contribution to the association or to Moonlight Fortress development. Successful candidates can stay and potentially earn land and titles, or leave freely. No strings. Kofi got 2 slots immediately as a founder's reward. Every merchant in the room started salivating. A chance, even a tiny one, to elevate their bloodline from merchant to knight, from commoner to noble. They'd sell their own kidneys for that. Because in this world, blood is everything. And every single one of them is going to send their own sons. Not some talented nobody from the village. Their sons. Because dynasties matter more than efficiency. I get it. I'm exploiting it. But I'm also delivering. Those kids might actually become knights. Some might get land. The deal is real. The dream is real. The hook just happens to bind their families to MY commercial empire forever. Spring was arriving. Ice melting. Rivers opening. The merchants boarded ships heading home to execute their orders. I watched them sail away from the dock thinking. Supply chains secured. Trade network activated. Commercial army deployed. Then Skin asked where to next. I hesitated. Let's go visit. Uncle Bisser. Skin's eyebrow went up approximately 1 millimeter. He said nothing. Smart man. Am I going to see Count Bisser for political networking? For family obligation? For strategic alliance building? Or am I going because a woman with violet eyes and reddish-brown hair who thought I was a deaf-mute child happens to live there? I refused to answer that question, even to myself. Especially to myself. Just being polite, Skin. Family courtesy. That's all. Of course, sir. His eyebrow stayed up the entire carriage ride. Traitor. Went to visit Uncle Bisser. Got blocked at the gate. The man had his entire security force lined up behind the iron fence like I was an invading army. Guards confused. Me confused. Only Bisser knew what was happening, and what was happening was paranoia. What do you want, Hades? I'm saying goodbye? I'm leaving tomorrow for Moonlight Fortress? Normal family courtesy visit. I don't believe you. The Hades I knew never cared about us old people's feelings. You're a playboy, and you have ulterior motives. Don't you dare step through this gate. The man was blowing his mustache like a steam engine. All because I stared at his daughter under a fruit tree for 30 seconds. 30 seconds of moonlit eye contact, and now I'm permanently banned from the premises. I gave up gracefully. Well, stay healthy, uncle. Visit the north sometime. Goodbye, HMPH. At least you have some decency. Now leave. Meanwhile, and I only imagined this later, up in the main building, a woman named Gallus was watching from her window. Her maid was describing the commotion. Some handsome young man got turned away. Brown hair, blue eyes. I didn't ask what he looks like. Sorry, miss. But he's really handsome. Gallus stared out the window, trying not to think about the boy from the moonlit garden. Failing completely. Face turning red. Hiding from her maid so nobody would see. Telling herself romance is impossible at 30. Wondering if he came to see her. Wondering if he's disappointed. A 30-year-old widow having the exact same internal crisis as a teenage girl with a crush. Because apparently that's universal regardless of age, century, or dimension. I left without disappointment. It was a whim. Wanted to learn her name. Didn't get it. Life goes on. Regrets are just part of being alive. Then my carriage was heading toward Oleg's place, and I thought, no, I can't leave it like that. Turn around. We went back. The guards saw my carriage approaching and panicked. One started yelling for backup. The other ran to fetch Bisser. I stood politely outside the iron gate. Again, like a delivery boy with no package. Bisser came storming back, surrounded by guards, face purple with rage, mouth open to unleash fury. I spoke first. Uncle Bisser, I was captivated by your daughter's beauty. I was drawn in by her presence. I don't care about the past. I don't care about age. I'm not here to propose. I'm not here to insult you. I just want you to know, as long as someone is alive, they have the right to pursue happiness. Whatever your daughter's history, someone out there will love her. She deserves to love and be loved. And I believe you are the person who loves her most. Bisser went silent, actually thinking for once instead of yelling. I used that 3-second window of stunned silence to sprint back to my carriage, yell, drive fast, and flee the scene like a criminal who just delivered the world's most sincere love confession through a fence. Smooth? No. Dignified? Absolutely not. But honest? 100%. The Capital Girls Gossip Network is going to turn this into a legend that gets more dramatic with every retelling. By next month, the story will involve me climbing the fence, fighting off 20 guards, and reciting poetry in the rain. None of that happened. I talked through iron bars and ran away. Romance status, deplorable. But at least I said what I wanted to say. Next stop, Oleg's place. The Iron Hammer tribe has an embassy in the capital's West District, a building made entirely of mountain boulders, surrounded by normal imperial architecture. It sticks out like a boulder in a flower garden. Oleg finds it embarrassing every time he walks out the door. The tribal elders who built it wanted to show Red Mountain spirit. They showed something all right. I arrived and got greeted by Oleg's Uncle Rees, a dwarf with the longest, thickest beard braids I've ever seen. This man gave me a warm welcome tour of the building, chatting happily about its history. Oleg came running and lost it. Uncle Rees, is that you? Since when are you nice to anyone? You treat me like garbage and you're giving this guy a guided tour? Are you possessed? Rees and I pretended we couldn't hear him. Beautiful synchronized ignoring. Oleg pouted like an angry bull. Red face. Red neck. Steam practically coming from his ears. Who did you actually come to see, Hades? You, of course. My dear friend, we're not friends anymore. You treated me like air. Get out. Some groveling later, he calmed down enough to deliver news about Dina. Our mercenary buddy decided settled life isn't for him. He's going back to wandering the world. His message, someday we'll meet again. Until then, farewell, my friend. The three of us who met in that tavern at Red Maple Town are all going separate ways now. Oleg back to Iron Hammer City. Dina to wherever the wind takes him. Me to Moonlight Fortress. Let's drink, I said. One massive farewell. Oleg brightened up immediately and added, Come visit our tribe someday. Deal. Once Moonlight Fortress is established, I'm coming specifically to drink with you. Then Oleg mentioned the Eternal Furnace had been temporarily stabilized. Some unknown archmage helped by them 2 or 3 years. He needs to go home before his father personally comes to Rhine City to drag him back. Then he dropped the real bomb. Oh, I felt bad leaving without a gift, so I made you something. Got a little carried away though. Used up all the ore in Rhine City. Left you 500 sets of plate armor. Personally forged. Every single one. They're just human-grade armor though, nothing fancy. Hope you don't mind. 500 sets of dwarf-forged plate armor. Nothing fancy, he says. A dwarf prince who can forge 100 sets per day made me 500 farewell gifts and called them ordinary. Mind. Brother, you're the greatest friend in the history of friendship. Let's drink. Ha ha ha. 500 plate armor sets. For free. As a going-away present. My enchanted pocket dimension is about to get very busy duplicating these. I could potentially outfit an entire army in dwarf-quality steel. Oleg thinks he left me a nice gift. He actually just handed me the foundation of a military superpower. Best drinking buddy ever. Family dinner at Dad's mansion. First time all 3 Mulan brothers together under one roof since I left for the north. Crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers, a dining table bigger than my bed, and 3 types of wine served in precise order. Fruit wine before eating, white during, red after. These people have wine choreography. Seating arrangement follows imperial etiquette. Men and women alternate so nobody gets ignored. Married couples sit apart because you've spent enough time together. Engaged couples sit together to build connection. I sat alone because I'm a bachelor. The family's designated single loser. My dining partners were my brother's wives. Both gorgeous, both well-bred, both looking at me with the, "When are you getting married?" eyes. Big brother Luen arrived with his wife Catalina and 2 kids. Second brother Halifax brought his wife Sura. Both women come from famous noble families. You don't marry into the Mulan family without top-tier lineage and looks. That's the entry requirement. Dad sat at the head, near the fireplace. Everyone else arranged around him. But this is the Mulan family, so formal etiquette lasted approximately 30 seconds before I started bombarding Luen with questions. Bro, why do you look miserable? Everyone's talking about your commendation. The military academy promoted you from advisor straight to 1st Legion vice commander and cavalry regiment leader at 28. What did you do? Also, where's your Golden Dawn medal? Idiot. Let me see it. Anyone else asking this many rapid-fire questions would have been punched into next week. But I'm the baby brother. Immunity shield activated. Luen looked at me with the saddest eyes I've seen on a military genius. Fought the Sarks out west. Won. But he couldn't finish. But carried 700 dead cavalrymen on its back. I dropped the goofy act. Put my arm around his shoulder. Listen, there's a saying. Behind every general's glory is a mountain of soldiers' graves. But think about it. If a different general led those men, would fewer have died? Or more? Would the outcome be better? Or worse? The result you got is the best possible outcome. Someone was going to fight that battle. Better it was you. Someone who actually cares about his soldiers. Because of you, some of them survived who wouldn't have. Because of you, their families got real compensation instead of some officer pocketing it. You gave them the best chance anyone could have. They don't blame you. So don't blame yourself. And keep being a commander. Become the biggest one. Then you make the rules. Then you fight wars your way. Luen said quietly. Thank you, Hades. I'll think about what you said. Then he literally zoned out to process it. Military geniuses, great at strategy, terrible at emotional regulation. Then Dad spoke, and the temperature in the room dropped to Arctic. Hades, you talk too much these days. Didn't you used to pretend to be mute? Also, Count Bisser already contacted me. What's this about you confessing your love at his gate? I choked on my wine. Dad wasn't done. He pivoted to Luen like a cannon changing targets. And you? Who said you could go to the front line? Sneaking off to the border without MY permission? Fighting a messy battle? Then moping about it. Do you think you're actually a marshal now? Let me tell you what you should have done. Send the 200 knights after the larger group. Use the light cavalry to pressure the northern splinter force into Imperial territory. Crush the main body in the south. Then rally and surround the small group that entered the Empire. Same total annihilation. Fraction of the casualties. Wen started to argue. Quiet. You want to say those 130 Sarks would have killed civilians if they entered the Empire? So what about the 700 cavalrymen who died? And our 4 family knights? Their lives don't count. Who gave you the right to sacrifice soldiers who could have survived just because of your soft heart? In a real war, a national war, that softness will get you destroyed. Every person you saved, every civilian you protected, your family, your territory, your country, all of it becomes the enemy's prize. And you'll stand there watching. Helpless. If you're going to be soft, don't be a commander. I kept you as a rear advisor because I don't think you're suited for command. Not because I'm afraid you'll die. Silence. Absolute silence. 2 wives staring at their plates. 2 children blissfully unaware. Halifax studying his wine glass like it contained the secrets of the universe. Me, frozen mid-bite, witnessing the most savage parenting I've seen in 2 lifetimes. Dad just dismantled his eldest son's entire military philosophy at the dinner table. Over white wine and roast meat. And the worst part? He's right. Tactically, strategically, logically, Dad's alternative plan would have achieved the same result with maybe 100 casualties instead of 700. Wen chose the path that protected civilians but destroyed his own soldiers. Noble? Yes. Correct? Dad says no. This is what it looks like at the top of the Milan family. A father who loves his sons but trains them like he's sharpening swords. No comfort. No soft landing. Just brutal, cutting truth served alongside the evening wine. I came into dinner wanting to enjoy family time. I'm leaving understanding why Dad is the most feared man in the Empire, and also why I should never mention Gallus at this table again. Visser told him, that snitch. That absolute snitch. Stop. Let's just eat. This is all my fault for bringing it up. I broke the tension before Dad fully destroyed Wen's soul at the dinner table. Dad fired one last shot. Used to be quiet. Now you won't shut up. Guess leaving home fixed that? Everyone laughed. The 2 wives relaxed. The kids were just staring at the food with enormous eyes, completely unbothered by the emotional warfare happening around them. Kids are resilient. Now the food. Oh, the food. Roasted lamb chops, roast duck, braised beef, steamed goose liver, sashimi, fresh-cut ham, lamb soup, charcoal grilled elk leg, steamed sea bass, cream nut cheese, bread, salad, mushroom soup, steamed giant crab legs, slow-cooked bird eggs. I could keep going, but my mouth is watering just remembering it. 5 chefs in the kitchen. These aren't cooks. These are artists standing at the absolute peak of imperial culinary achievement. And because it's a family dinner and nobody's watching, all 3 Milan brothers threw etiquette out the window and inhaled food like we'd been starving for months. Our wives ate with delicate little bites. We ate like wild animals competing for survival. Dad watched us and smiled. A real, genuine smile. Nobody noticed, but the wrinkles around his eyes got deeper. Time is catching up with even the most powerful men. After dinner, I cornered Halifax, my second brother, the one working at the Imperial Finance Department. Bro, what rank are you at finance now? Hades, your manners are getting worse. Can you lend your little brother some startup capital? My territory is still developing. I'll pay you back double. Think of it as an investment. Halifax sighed. His wife Sura was laughing. Both brothers become completely different people around me. Relaxed, real, human. Their wives love me for it. I'm basically the family's emotional support puppy. Everyone eventually said their goodbyes. The 2 older couples left for their own wings of the estate. Then it was just me, Dad, and Hawk outside the study. Dad handed me something that made my heart stop. A magic book. Left behind by Master Bilac, my old court mage teacher, before he departed for the Mist Forest. Dad had somehow acquired it. Must have cost a fortune. If you like it, that's enough. I love it. Thank you, Father. Then Dad looked at me with the most vulnerable expression I've ever seen on his face and said, Hades, how about you don't go back? I can handle everything. The room went silent. The most powerful border count in the Empire just asked his 20-year-old son to please stay home where it's safe. Not as a command. As a father, I wanted to say yes. I've wanted to say yes 1,000 times. Run back to the mansion, drink coffee on the balcony, let Dad's shadow keep me alive forever. I've thought about quitting so many times, I admitted. Coming back, hiding under your protection, living the easy life. But reality doesn't play favorites. Everyone has their destiny. I know mine now. So this time, I'm not backing down. To the death. Dad stepped forward and gently touched my head, the way he used to when I was small. He said one thing. Just one thing. I'm not going to share what it was. Some words belong only to the moment they're spoken. Spring. Day 8. Heather led a convoy of dozens of supply wagons into Eagle Territory's capital, Biondi City. 20,000 people. Biggest city in the territory. The family's ancestral estate sits somewhere beyond fields of wheat outside the walls. Half the Eagle Knight Order is stationed here. Heather delivered my letter to Baron Vigo, Dad's cousin, my uncle, and the man who's been running Biondi City flawlessly for years. Vigo read the letter, lit up like a festival bonfire, threw his arm around Heather, and marched him inside. Little Hades got rich? Where did all this come from? Heather diplomatically responded. I don't know the details, sir. Lord Hades just asked me to deliver everything safely. What was I in the delivery? 400 enchanted equipment pieces. Enough to fully gear 100 heavy cavalry knights, enchanted armor, and enchanted weapons. My pocket dimension mass production line had been busy. Oleg's 500 armor sets as base templates, my inscription work, dimensional duplication. The result was an arsenal that doesn't exist anywhere else on the continent. I sent this as a gift to Eagle Territory, strengthening the family, paying Dad back, building goodwill with the knights who'll be watching my back for decades. Vigo barely had time to process before 50 knights came thundering up to the castle gates. Middle-aged veterans, all of them. They'd gotten wind of the delivery and sprinted over. One old hothead was already yelling before his horse stopped. Get to the point. We can't wait. Vigo grinned. Moonlight Fortress just sent 400 pieces of enchanted equipment. Enough to outfit at least 100 fully armored knights. Including weapons. Unified gasp. Then the hothead asked the question on everyone's mind. And that's where the chapter cuts off. A cliffhanger. On the word, how many? These old knights are about to lose their minds fighting over enchanted gear like shoppers at a Black Friday sale. And I don't even get to see it. I'm somewhere on the road heading home, probably sleeping in my carriage, completely unaware that I just became the most popular person in Eagle Territory's history. 400 enchanted pieces. Sent like a care package. Oh, just a little something for the family. No big deal. The useless third son is now the family's top arms dealer. Dad wanted me to stay home. Instead, I'm heading back to build the strongest territory on the continent, carrying a legendary mage's spell book, with a Saint Knight's favor in my pocket, a trade alliance spanning the empire, and an assassination network leader voluntarily living in my city. Stay home. Sorry, Dad. The world's not going to conquer itself. Mid-January, year 498. I'm home. Back in Moonlight Fortress. Back where I belong. But first, the farewell gifts I dropped before leaving the capital were legendary. Dad got a handmade enchanted dagger. Could he buy 1,000 better ones? Yes. Did he hug me anyway because his baby boy made it? Also yes. The most feared border count in the empire turned into a softie over a craft project. Priceless. Halifax handed me a bank check so fat that I immediately upgraded his gift to something more expensive. Investment secured. Return on Brotherhood. Infinite. Llewyn got a full enchanted armor set. My comprehensive enhanced edition. His first reaction? You didn't stuff a kidnapped maid in this box, right? BRO what? The military genius's mind goes to weird places. Hawk got an enchanted longsword. He twirled it one-handed like a toy and asked its name. I said, Enchanted Longsword Type 2. He looked at me like I'd named my firstborn, Human Child Model 2. Yeah, I need to work on weapon naming. It's not my strongest skill. Onglon got a copy of the Crimson Breathing Technique and hid it like it was contraband, which it basically is. You're welcome, you enormous marshmallow. The big gift went to Eagle Territory, 400 enchanted equipment pieces, 100 chest plates, 100 swords, 50 sabers, 50 shoulder guards, 50 arm guards, 50 helmets. All initial Type 1. Assembly line stuff that boosts anyone below Glory Knight. Not masterwork, but in a world where enchanted gear basically doesn't exist in bulk, I just handed the family enough enchanted equipment to make 50 senior knights cry with jealousy. Now, Rhine City. I got back to find my castle still under construction, so I'm living in a random house. I miss my crappy little stone fort. At least that was finished. Thomas gave me his report, and honestly, This guy is a genius administrator. The town went from 4,000 to 8,000 people in the months I was gone. Doubled. Where'd they all come from? 3 sources. 1. Refugees from the north. Demon attacks near the Gert Mountains are getting worse. Entire villages migrating south. Whoever accepts them, they stay. Greens, Relief Squad, has been harvesting these people. His team went from 40 guys to 200. The man traded his mule for a Friedrich war horse and is making bank on the finder's fees I set up. He also won't stop praising me to everyone he meets, which created a problem. Someone in Rhine City realized that publicly praising me gets you rewards. So they started doing it. Thomas reluctantly gave the first guy some coins. Word spread. Now everyone in the city, militia, guards, clerks, merchants, even the criminal construction brigade, spends their free time composing compliments about me. The entire city became a Hades fan club. Thomas, the most serious administrator alive, had to beg Alvin to help shut down the praise epidemic. I accidentally created a cult of personality through positive reinforcement. My management style has side effects. 2. Escaped serfs from the south. The empire's feudal system pushes people to breaking points constantly. Serfs run. Most get caught and beaten. Some get executed as examples. The ones who make it out trade one master for another, hoping the next one is less terrible. When the serf grapevine whispers that somewhere is good, they come flooding. Rhine City is becoming the new promised land. The old, free city, refuges are yesterday's news. 3. Eagle Territory families. Over 1,000 people, wives, children, servants of my knights and cavalry. They settled in the West District alongside the original free citizens. Plus knights buying property in town, their families running the businesses. A real community forming. Small bonus. Merchants and workers drawn by the United Trading Association's supply contracts. Constant caravans mean jobs, which means settlers. Some stay permanently. The refugee camp outside the walls keeps growing too. Last resort housing for the desperate, but at least nobody's dying of cold or hunger. 8,000 people. A functioning economy. A construction boom. A mayor who runs things like clockwork. And a population that literally won't stop saying nice things about me. 9 months ago, this was a lawless dump where the biggest building was a 2-story stone box. Now it's a city with districts, industries, a school, a mercenary guild, licensed brothels, and a fan club. And I'm sleeping in a borrowed house because my actual castle isn't done yet. Barren problems. Thomas continued his report. The textile workshop hit 300 female workers. Output now sells beyond Rhine City into Tuan City and across the Golden Pillar province. When Thomas sees those working women smiling, something fills up inside him. The man is discovering job satisfaction in a medieval economy. I love it. City construction phase 1. Done. Castle. Still building. Thomas estimated 6 more months at current pace. I made a face. Not angry at him. Angry at time. What if I hire more people? We don't need craftsmen, sir. We need labor. Then mobilize the refugees and slaves. Double the pay. I'll cover it personally. Don't touch the city budget. Just like that, we committed thousands of gold coins in a 30-second conversation. This is how decisions get made when 2 people trust each other completely. No committees. No approvals. Just do it, and done. Then I realized something alarming. Thomas has been running everything non-military by himself. Farming, villages, trade, construction, city planning. One man, a dozen trainee clerks who can barely hold a pen, and sheer willpower. I'm getting you help. This territory is going to grow fast. I didn't trick you into leaving Long River Town just to work you to death before I deliver on my promises. Also, your father would kill me. Thomas actually joked. That's surprisingly sincere of you, my lord. I accept. A joke. From Thomas, the man who treats smiling like a criminal offense. I'm a miracle worker. Then Alvin came in for the military report. Very formal. Very stiff. Called me Lord instead of young master. I noticed immediately. The old knight was deliberately establishing professional distance now that I'm an independent baron. Smart man thinking 3 steps ahead. If his son runs the city and dad runs the military, people might accuse them of building a power block. So Alvin is preemptively acting like a professional instead of family. He's even planning his own retirement strategy. Step back at the right moment so Thomas can stand on his own without accusations of nepotism. A 60-year-old knight thinking about succession planning. This is why I value experienced people. The military numbers: 77 registered knights, 65 brave, 9 justice, 2 glory, Alvin and Elvis, 1 grand, Arsa. Down from the peak because 7 died at Lena and Mark got moved to Peg territory. 20 pre-knights, ready for awakening attempts. My potion factory is about to run another batch. Cavalry battalion, 32 veterans as officers and instructors, 100 new recruits in training. The veterans are my original Eagle Territory riders who didn't awaken, now serving as squad leaders and trainers. Most of their units are empty because we don't have enough riders yet. 15 squad leaders commanding imaginary squads. Fake it till you make it. City defense, 50 soldiers. Militia, 235 in training. The militia is basically my recruitment pipeline. 2 months basic training, then the best get picked for cavalry or city defense. Fail twice in 6 months. Honorable discharge back to civilian life. 55 knight squires. Mostly imported from Eagle Territory. Local recruitment is tough because squire candidates need knight awakening potential, which is rare. Mercenaries registered in Rhine City. 322 across 11 groups. 2 big ones. Dina's, Freedom Mercenary Company, at 100 plus, and a mysterious Brothers Mercenary Company that showed up last month with another 100 plus fighters. That second group, the Hashishin, rebranded, living in my city, still haven't contacted me directly. Neither have I contacted them, because whoever reaches out first loses negotiating leverage. We've been playing chicken for days. Dad said the final relationship, allies, subordinates, or strangers, depends entirely on my ability to handle it. Classic Dad. I'll give you the pieces. Assembly is your problem. Beta warriors, 390, with 230 more coming. They eat a quarter of my military budget. The original 50 sold themselves for 10 years. Life or death, no liability. The newer 300 are on 3-year contracts. Expensive, but worth it. 600 beta warriors is a force that makes regional armies nervous. Alvin's conclusion: at 8,000 population, we can barely sustain current forces. I recommend prioritizing civilian development and maintaining, not expanding, military capacity. You can't fund everything alone forever. Reasonable advice. From a reasonable man, which I respectfully rejected. Alvin, we didn't start from zero. We started standing on Eagle Territory's shoulders. Normal development logic doesn't apply to Moonlight Fortress. I need maximum military growth, even if the structure looks lopsided. Whatever gaps exist, I'll personally fill them. Remember, the territory is a side effect. What I actually came here to build is an army. Everything else serves that purpose. Elvis will assist you going forward. Military matters are in your hands. Understood, my lord. Clean. Professional. No emotion. Exactly how Alvin wants it now. The old man walked out, and I sat there thinking. 77 knights, a growing cavalry, 600 beta warriors, 300 mercenaries, including a secret assassination network, and a pocket dimension full of potions and enchanted gear that nobody knows about. The outside world sees a tiny barony with 8,000 people struggling to build a castle. I see the skeleton of an army that's going to make the continent shake. Same picture, very different perspective. And that's exactly how I want it. Let me give you the geopolitical history lesson I pieced together from Dad's library and about 40 ancient texts. Grab a drink. This is going to take a minute. 1,000 years ago, the tourist people down south of the Gorilla Mountains had their own kingdom, Bonavi. 800 years ago, they got ambitious, climbed over the mountains, and started conquering the southern plains cities. Those cities panicked, formed a city alliance, and built the Sahel United Kingdom to fight back. Worked for a while. Meanwhile, the Cis people on the Kalia Plains were busy fighting everyone. Northern Quail tribes, Eastern Via Kingdom, basically a 360-degree brawl. Once they beat the Northerners, who later became the Volan Kingdom after an internal civil war, the Cis turned south and made a deal with the tourists. Together they crushed the Sahel Kingdom, then immediately started fighting each other over the scraps. Classic alliance behavior. 3 wars later, over about 50 years, the Cis completely conquered the tourist homeland. Bonavi Kingdom surrendered. The Cis renamed their country the Cis-Tourist Empire, aka the Cis Empire. Then they took a 100-year nap to recover. Smart. When they woke up, they tried to eat the Volan kingdom to the north. Volan called in everyone. Darksea nomads, Saxon kingdom, the island nations. Pirates raided Cis shipping. Sark cavalry rode into Volan territory as mercenaries. Saxon helped too. First northern campaign. Failed. Too many enemies at once. Meanwhile, on our side of the continent, dozens of small nations were butchering each other until Lion King Bodman said, "Enough." Conquered 3 kingdoms, unified the Central Plains, tamed the Red Mountain Dwarves, and founded the Oran Empire. 500 years ago. Our side. Their side. 2 superpowers staring at each other across a border, occasionally punching. 30 years ago, the Cis Empire tried the Volan kingdom again. This time, nobody came to help. The island nations didn't care. The Sark tribes took money but didn't fully commit. Saxon sat on its hands. Volan fell. The Cis Empire renamed itself the Great Sisterus Empire because apparently conquest requires a name upgrade. But here's the thing. Conquering Volan was the easy part. 30 years later, rebellions and uprisings are still happening across former Volan territory. The Cis Empire is bleeding resources trying to digest a kingdom that refuses to be swallowed. It's like eating a porcupine. You got it in your mouth, but now what? Everyone on the continent knows the math. Once the Cis Empire finishes digesting Volan, no single human nation can match them, including us. They'll be the undisputed continental superpower. It's not a question of if, it's when. So who showed up to pump the brakes on Armageddon? 3 very unusual parties. The Church of Light, because massive wars kill believers. Fewer believers means less faith power for their God. Practical theology at its finest. The Mist Forest Mages, because they used to be regular humans with feelings, and also they don't want their magical sanctuary caught in the crossfire. Sentimentality and self-interest. And the Dragonborn. Yeah, Dragonborn. Living on the islands in the Darksea. Humans who've been mutated by magical energy leaking from a sleeping dragon at the center of the ocean. They grow horns. They're born superhuman. They absorb dragon crystals, minerals formed when dragon magic corrupts rock and soil, to get even stronger. The closer you live to the sleeping dragon, the better your crystals, the higher your status. Their Grand Elder literally lives next door to a slumbering continent-destroying lizard. Their concern? If the 2 empires go to full-scale continental war, the noise might wake up Dragon Father. And if a dragon that's been asleep for centuries wakes up cranky, the Dragonborn die first because they live closest. So 3 supernatural factions, a church, some wizards, and dragon mutant islanders, all told both empires, keep it together or we intervene. And that's the current situation. 2 massive empires in a Cold War. One slowly absorbing a conquered kingdom. The other, U.S., dealing with internal faction fights, border raids, and 4 great families who can't stop scheming against each other. 3 supernatural powers hovering overhead saying, "Don't you dare." And me? I'm a 20-year-old baron with 8,000 people, 77 knights, and a red moon flag, sitting in the northeast corner of an empire that might get steamrolled by its western neighbor within a generation. No pressure. I just need to build a force strong enough to survive the end of the world. Totally doable. Probably. Maybe. Let me check my pocket dimension inventory and get back to you. October, year 498. Second winter in Moonlight Fortress. 21 years old. Still single. Still alive. Both surprising to different groups of people. The castle is done. Finished in July. 10 months from groundbreaking, when normal construction takes 5 to 10 years. How? Triple the budget. Thousands of laborers. Knights pitching in on the hard parts. Money is the ultimate accelerant. I called the finished product my cozy little home. It's a military fortress that could withstand a siege. Cozy. The Criminal Construction Brigade got a reward for their work. Optional military training. No explanation given. Just, hey, you can go train with the militia if you want. Alvin and Elvis figured out what I was doing and set up a system. Weekly evaluations, rewards for good performance, monthly combat tournaments against militia trainees. Winners get rest days. Result? While your buddy is hauling hot rocks in the sun, you're napping in the barracks because you want to fight yesterday. The former criminals went from reluctant laborers to psychotically competitive trainees overnight. Internal competition so fierce it makes professional sports look casual. I'm accidentally building a warrior class out of convicts. Military status report from Elvis, and this is where I get excited. Cavalry Battalion, 500 riders. Full. 3 companies. Everyone equipped with steel helmets, plate chest armor, arm guards, cavalry lances, shields, quality swords, and northern war horses in scale armor. My cavalry went from 30 guys to a regiment in under 2 years. Crimson Knight Order, unofficial name 78 knights, 135 squires, all equipped with enchanted gear. Currently training as a cohesive unit. Elvis commanding as acting captain. City Defense, 100 soldiers, fully equipped. Betel Warriors, 342. Full complement with chainplate armor, helmets, battle axes, and war horses. Walking Nightmares. Militia in training, 500. Criminal camp trainees, 145. Elena's intelligence group, 75 full-time agents, all working girls. 436 part-time informants including brothel staff, merchants, workers, and civilians across 21 establishments spanning the Golden Pillar province. She's planning to expand into other northern provinces. I approved immediately. The watchtowers now carry crossbows. Technically illegal for non-imperial forces to possess. Technically, I don't care. Steel construction, composite limbs, spring steel wire strings, requires mechanical cranking to load. Can punch through armor at 200 meters with special bolts. A commoner can use one to kill a knight. That's why rulers ban them, too equalizing. But rules only apply to most people, and I'm not most people. 6 months ago, I cut a deal with Listoro, the Hashishin leader living in my city. Moonlight Fortress provides sanctuary. We don't interfere with their business. In return, they go all out for me once when I need it. Listoro personally guaranteed at least his own commitment. I promised to shelter the organization once in return, as long as they don't assassinate the emperor or someone whose death would bring consequences I can't absorb. Population update from Thomas. Over 20,000 permanent residents, not counting slaves and serfs. Exploded from 8,000 in less than a year. Northern refugees fleeing demon attacks, escaped southern serfs, and workers drawn by the United Trading Association's commercial activity. Rhine City's economy is creating jobs, which pulls in settlers, which creates more demand, which creates more jobs. Growth loop activated. The cost of this, force-fed development? I burned through half my stored medicines, all the investment capital from the capital trip, and every coin the territory produces. The entire system is running at maximum RPM. Every administrator is exhausted. Every citizen is working hard. The growth is lopsided, accelerated, and unsustainable by normal standards. But normal was never the plan. I've only managed to enchant 200 of Oleg's 500 armor sets. 100 went to the new Knight Order, the rest waiting. My remaining time splits between territory management, inscription research, alchemy, potion brewing, and studying Dad's magic book while practicing attack spells in my pocket dimension. Because I know something that most of my people don't know yet. War is coming. The Cis Empire is almost done digesting the Volan Kingdom. Sark cavalry are already probing our borders. The internal politics are fracturing. And somewhere out there, forces that want chaos are pulling strings. I have maybe a few years, maybe less. And when the storm hits, Moonlight Fortress needs to be strong enough to survive it. 20,000 people, 78 knights, 500 cavalry, 300 Betel Warriors, a spy network of prostitutes, a secret assassination organization in my basement, a pocket dimension full of potions and half-finished enchanted armor, one favor from a Saint Knight, and a 21-year-old baron who hasn't slept properly in months. Ready or not, here it comes. Let me lay out the math of why I can't sleep at night. The Empire's standard ratio is 1 soldier per 100 civilians. Eagle territory, 2 million people, 20,000 troops. The Imperial Crown lands, 6 million people, 80,000 soldiers across 7 different military organizations, including a secret Griffin Knight Order that nobody's supposed to know about. Total Empire population, 45 million free citizens plus 8 million serfs and slaves. 53 million humans, 40 million of whom are farmers. The Empire's direct military, 25,000 total, 15,000 regulars split into 3 army groups, plus support staff and reserves. First Army, 70,000, mixed cavalry and infantry, stationed along every border. Heavy hitters. Second Army, 30,000 all-infantry, positioned as the internal security blanket, protect against invasion and crush domestic rebellions. Third Army, 50,000 cavalry, including 400 knights. The offensive fist. Mobile strike force. Then there's the Imperial Knight Order, 200 knights plus 1,000 elite riders answering only to Parliament. 15,000 regulars containing roughly 1,000 knights total. Sounds impressive until you realize the real power isn't the Imperial Army at all. 4,000 nobles control this empire. 6 dukes, 2 border counts, 106 counts, 27 viscounts, 2,800 barons, all hereditary with land, plus another 1,000-ish lifetime and court nobles. Together, these feudal lords command 80,000 registered knights, 600,000 soldiers, and 500,000 armed personnel. The nobles are the empire. The imperial army is just the government's personal slice. Remove the nobles, and the empire has the military strength of a medium-sized kingdom. Now the Cis Empire. Worse feudalism. Their royal family holds the Central Plains. 13 dukes own everything else. Each duke controls counts, who control barons, who control knights. Pure pyramid. The king's vassal's vassal is not the king's vassal, taken to its logical extreme. It's basically 13 countries wearing one coat, but they have more land, more people, more coastline, more flat ground, and they just ate the Volan kingdom. Once they finish digesting, no single human power can match them, including us. My territory? 20,000 people, 1,000 soldiers. In continental terms, I'm an ant standing between 2 elephants preparing to charge each other. 2 paths to becoming relevant. Grow slowly over centuries, or rise during chaos. I can't wait centuries. Nobody around me can. So from day one, from the moment I left the capital, I've been positioning for the storm. If chaos doesn't come naturally, I was prepared to create it. The Lena assassination had shadows of that thinking. But I don't need to manufacture chaos anymore. Because Dad gave me the critical intelligence, the Cis Empire will launch a full-scale war within 5 years. Target, almost certainly US. Their emperor, Asta IV, is a certifiable war maniac whose life goal is conquering the entire eastern continent. He wants to be the greatest emperor in history. The 3 supernatural powers told both empires to stand down. Asta agreed. Temporarily. Because he's not stupid, he's buying time. Cleaning house internally. Crushing Volan resistance. Building strength. And here's why the supernatural deterrent won't actually work. The church won't fight. Their principles forbid direct military intervention. The Mist Forest mages won't fight either. Same philosophical hang-up. And the Dragonborn? To the Cis Empire, they're just a really big knight order. Scary, but manageable. Unless every single Dragonborn attacks simultaneously, which won't happen because they need guards near their sleeping dragon daddy. So Asta calculated correctly. The 3 powers will complain, but not ACT. They'll make speeches about peace while his armies march across the continent. 5 years. Maybe less. 5 years to turn my ant colony into something that can survive 2 elephants trampling each other. 5 years to build an army, secure alliances, stockpile weapons, train knights, and prepare for a continental war that will reshape everything. The useless third son is now racing against a countdown clock set by a foreign emperor who wants to conquer the known world. No pressure. Just the fate of everyone I care about hanging on whether a 21-year-old with a pocket dimension and 80 knights can outrun history. Let's get to work. Winter morning. Cold sun doing absolutely nothing to warm anyone. I assembled the most overpowered scouting party in Moonlight Fortress history. Me, Arsa, Grand Knight at the peak, 1 breakthrough from Titled Knight. Elvis, top-tier Glory Knight. Hank, Heather, Chelsea, all elite. Justice Knights. An old Belair the coachman, who I'm now 90% sure is something terrifying. 7 riders. I was actually on a horse for once instead of hiding in my carriage. Felt weird. My butt was not prepared. Elvis tried one more time. Sir, you don't need to come personally. We're just looking. If it's dangerous, we leave. Now brief me on the intel. What we knew. Everyone who enters the wasteland feels progressively weaker. Deeper you go, worse it gets. Normal people can't handle it. Fugitives who fled inside never came back. 80 years ago, an expedition from the capital, 3 knights, a mage, an alchemist, 10 cavalry, reported seeing the Girt Forest. They came back alive, which meant the key to surviving the wasteland might be magic or alchemy. Which is why I, the only guy here who has both, needed to come personally. We rode east, and the wasteland came into view. What we saw was impossible. Winter everywhere, frost, dead grass, thin snow. Then a sharp green line. On one side, frozen wasteland. On the other side, spring, lush grass, vibrant plants, life exploding. The contrast was so stark it looked like someone drew a border with a giant green marker. Snow was falling on both sides, but over the green zone, snowflakes melted mid-air before touching the ground. Frost couldn't form. Something was generating heat or energy that prevented winter from existing inside this area. We rode north along the edge. The green boundary curved. It was an arc, which meant the wasteland was probably circular or semicircular. Something at the center was projecting this effect outward in every direction. Time to go in. We dismounted and crossed the green line. Formation: Elvis and Arsa up front, Hank and Chelsea flanking, Belair rear guard, me in the middle, Heather roaming the perimeter. The second we stepped in, everyone felt it. Pressure. Like the air itself was pushing against you. Some kind of force field saturating everything. My 3 Justice Knights cracked first. Heather doubled over. My blood. My meridians. Something is corroding them. Can't breathe. Dizzy. Hank and Chelsea, same thing. I sent all 3 back. Go wait outside. If we're not back by dark, ride to the capital and tell my father. 4 of us left. Elvis, Arsa, Belair, and me. How are you guys? Elvis. Manageable. Arsa. Same. Belair. Nods helpful as always, old man. We pushed deeper. I could feel 2 separate things happening. The air was saturated with magical essence, raw mana particles, basically. But the crushing pressure was something else. Something I couldn't identify. 2 phenomena overlapping. Hours passed. Elvis hit his wall, sweat pouring down his face. Arsa wasn't much better. Both of them, a peak Grand Knight and a top Glory Knight, physically could not continue. Their senses were screaming that one more step would turn them into paste. They begged me to stop. I told them to go back. So it was just Belair and me. The useless Baron who can't feel battle aura and the mysterious old coachman walking into a supernatural wilderness that just defeated 2 of the strongest knights I know. We walked, and walked, and walked. Belair was fine. Knight-level body, no fatigue. Me? I'm an Enoan knight. A regular human body with magic skills. My feet were bleeding through my deerskin boots. My lungs were burning. My legs were jelly. But the magical pressure that crushed my knights? I barely felt it. Because I can't channel battle aura. The corrosive force targets aura pathways and meridians, systems I don't have. My biggest weakness became my biggest advantage. The wasteland literally can't hurt me the way it hurts knights, because there's nothing supernatural in my body TO attack. Just before sunset, we saw it. The Girt Forest. Distant but unmistakable. A wall of ancient trees so massive and dense it looked like darkness had grown roots. Primeval forest that has never known a human axe. Towering giants packed so tight the canopy was a solid black mass. We'd made it further than anyone in decades. Too dark to continue. Time to go back. Belair scooped me onto his back like I weighed nothing, because to him, I probably don't, and carried me the entire return journey while I clung to his shoulders with bleeding feet and a brain full of theories. The wasteland's secret, magical energy field, likely circular, emanating from a central source. Lethal to knights because it corrodes their superhuman systems. Survivable for mages, alchemists, and, hilariously, talentless nobodies like me. The Girt Forest is real and reachable. 6 of the strongest fighters in my territory couldn't make it to the center. I got carried there on an old man's back with blisters on my feet. Sometimes being the weakest person in the room is the ultimate cheat code. Next step, figure out what's at the center of that circle. Because whatever is generating that much magical energy across that much land area is either the most valuable thing on the continent, or the most dangerous. Either way, it's mine. Back in my room that night, I dove into my pocket dimension to run experiments. Brought in some wasteland grass and analyzed it. The stuff altering its structure is mana particles. Same type of magical essence that exists in my own body. Then I cracked open a sealed crystal bottle of wasteland air, slowly froze it with basic ice magic to separate the components, and confirmed it. The corrosive force eating people alive in the wasteland is pure concentrated magical essence. So the problem is mana saturation. Mages like me who have natural mana affinity, barely affected. Knights at Belair's level can power through it. Everyone else gets their insides liquefied. Great neighborhood for a magic user. Terrible for literally everyone else. Over the next week, Belair and I went back twice. The final trip, we reached the forest edge and waited for nightfall. What we saw will haunt my dreams. The darkness lit up with hundreds of glowing red eyes. Then shapes emerged from the trees. A wolf the size of a wagon, claws like sword blades, fangs like daggers, leaped straight at us. It hit something invisible midair and bounced back like it had smacked into a glass wall. Landed expertly. Clearly had done this 1,000 times before. Stared at us with amber eyes that said, "I will eat you eventually." Behind it, a two-headed megagriffin. A flying snake with wings. A porcupine with tusks longer than human legs. A horse covered in spine-like bristles. A pangolin the size of a boulder. Saber-toothed tigers. Bears with claws longer than my arm. Three-tailed foxes in the trees. Giant apes hanging from branches. Notably absent, anything cute. No bunnies. No sparrows. No small harmless creatures. Just apex predators in various flavors of nightmare. And the creepiest part? Complete silence. No wars. No growls. No sound at all. Hundreds of massive predators smashing against an invisible barrier without making a single noise. Like watching a horror movie on mute. I almost wet myself. But science waits for no coward. Belair walked to within 10 steps of the monsters. They went berserk, lunging, clawing, biting at the invisible wall. Still no sound. He reached out and touched the barrier. Ripples spread from his hand like touching water. He yanked his arm back. In that 1 second, concentrated mana nearly destroyed his arm tissue. Then I touched it. Same ripples, but my mana affinity body handled it better. "I need to meditate," I told Belair. "Guard me." I closed my eyes, sent my consciousness into my pocket dimension while my physical hand stayed connected to the barrier. Tried to copy whatever this thing was. My entire pocket dimension shook. I got ejected like a cannonball. First time ever. Back in reality, I collapsed, hands clutching my skull, screaming in pain. The worst headache across 2 lifetimes. Belair panicked. First time I'd heard genuine fear in his voice. "Hades, what happened?" "Head splitting." He couldn't even use healing aura on me because my body rejects battle energy. A man with enough power to probably level a small army. And he couldn't help me because I'm allergically incompatible with his entire skill set. He just held me in a comfortable position and waited. After recovering enough to stand, I said, "It's weird, but I think I know what this thing is. Let's go home." Consequence of my recklessness. 2 days of unconsciousness. Then a full week of being completely cut off from my pocket dimension. 0 magical ability. No mana. No connection to my secret world. 7 days of absolute terror thinking I'd permanently broken my cheat code. The panic was real. My entire empire, potions, enchanted gear, resources, depends on that dimension. Without it, I'm just a baron with good speeches and bleeding feet. It came back eventually. But the lesson was carved into my brain. Don't rush things you don't understand. Especially things that can shake reality. So I buried myself in Master Bilak's magic book with a focus I'd never had before. Because if the wasteland barrier is what I think it is, I need to be a much stronger mage to crack it open. Quick mage power scale. Apprentice equals a wisp of fog. Beginner mage equals a bucket of water. Intermediate equals a vat. Advanced equals a pond. Archmage equals a river or lake. Grand Archmage, the legendary tier, an entire ocean of mental power called a Spirit Sea. Fun fact about baby Hades that nobody knows. I didn't go silent for 2 years because of trauma. My abnormally high spiritual power overwhelmed my infant nervous system. My brain literally couldn't process the outside world. Once my body adapted, I could function normally. My old magic teacher called me a magical genius because I skipped the apprentice phase entirely, went straight from learning theory to casting spells in 1 year. Only 3 people know this: my teacher, dad, and me. The useless son who can't even feel battle aura is actually a prodigy whose body is so magically saturated that it rejected the knight system entirely. I can't be a knight because I'm too magical. The universe's idea of a joke. And now I need to become strong enough to break open a continent-spanning magical barrier that ejected my consciousness like a bouncer throwing out a drunk. Study time. No shortcuts. No cheating. Just a boy and his dead teacher's book, racing against a 5-year war clock. The wasteland's secret is almost in my hands. The Gert Forest's magical beasts are right there behind glass. Beast cores, the key to mass-producing enchanted equipment without Siberia crystals, are waiting for me. I just need to get stronger. Fast. My old magic teacher told me at 16. I have nothing left to teach you. Sounds impressive until you realize I spent the next 4 years ignoring magic entirely and nerding out over inscription and enchanting. At 20, I knew exactly 4 spells. Freeze, Spark, Flashlight, Dispel, Anti-Fatigue, and Detect, Enhanced Vision. All beginner tier. The magic genius couldn't do anything beyond party tricks. But my inscription skills? Master level. The only gap between me and being called an enchanting grandmaster is raw mana capacity. Technically brilliant, magically underpowered. Like owning a race car with a lawnmower engine. Time to fix that. I took Master Bilak's book to the wasteland outside Rhine City and started blasting. Firewall, Fog Summon, Ice Ring, Windblade. 4 mid-tier spells, cast consecutively, and my spiritual energy held. Congratulations to me. Officially a mid-level mage now. And I wasn't even at my limit. The problem? Bilak's book only contains 1 advanced spell, and the incantation is so absurdly complex that after days of practice, I can't even pronounce it properly. Could take months. Could take 10 years. Could take forever without a teacher. Now here's the thing nobody knows about me. My spiritual power isn't just natural talent. It's connected to my pocket dimension somehow. That world feeds my mental capacity, which is why the Lena fight, where I froze 2 Beetle assassins with a spell that was way stronger than basic freeze, only knocked me out for half an hour, and why the Wasteland incident, where I tried to copy a reality-bending magical construct, nearly destroyed me for a week. What I didn't know was that my reckless attempt to copy the Wasteland barrier sent a ripple across. Dimensions? Realities? Whatever. Somewhere in an unknown world, inside a massive underground lair, a white-haired human was floating in midair above a hemisphere-shaped crater filled with lava, scattered body parts, and the remains of creatures that looked like oversized dragonborn. Horned, tailed, clawed, with faces that were half human, half beast. This person glanced at the gemstone on their magic staff, sensed the disturbance from the barrier they apparently created, and said one sentence. Something dirty touched it. Cool. Great. I accidentally poked an interdimensional archmage security system, and they noticed. The most powerful magical being I've ever indirectly encountered just called me dirty. Fantastic first impression. Meanwhile, completely unrelated, or maybe not, 11 mages walked out of the mist forest for the first time. Young-looking, but with mages you never guess age because they live forever and have cosmetic magic. Never guess a mage's age. They might be older than your ancestors. Smart rule. Their leader gave a quick speech. First field mission for all of us. Remember your purpose. Remember your teacher's instructions. Meet back here in 1 year. Have fun. Then they scattered across the continent. One of them, a woman dressed as a commoner, wandered into Colin province and immediately demonstrated why mages shouldn't go outside unsupervised. She visited every shop, tavern, brothel, and weapon store like a tourist from another planet. Paid for everything in gold. Never asked for change. Basically walked around with a neon sign saying, "ROB me." 3 muggers cornered her in an alley. She asked what they wanted. They stared at her, confused. She genuinely didn't understand why men with knives were blocking her path. When one grabbed for her hair, his hand caught fire. They ran. She went back to her inn. Then 9 more bandits showed up. She burned 3 to charcoal and 6 to medium rare, then fled. In quotes, because a mage who just incinerated 9 people isn't really fleeing. She's just relocating. Her teacher's rule: use magic to protect yourself. Then immediately leave civilization. Don't let humans identify you. So she wandered through the wilderness, got completely lost trying to find Steel Fortress, asked a random farmer for directions, and the farmer, who had no idea what Steel Fortress was but vaguely remembered hearing about, some fortress to the east, pointed east, toward My territory. A lost, clueless, overpowered mage from the Mist Forest who burns robbers alive and has zero survival skills is currently stumbling toward Moonlight Fortress because a farmer pointed in the wrong direction. The universe keeps sending me the weirdest gifts. An assassination network leader, a Grand Knight refugee, a dwarf prince, and now possibly a mage who sets people on fire when confused. My territory is becoming a magnet for dangerous people with nowhere else to go. I should put that on the welcome sign. Moonlight Fortress, where the continent's most dangerous misfits come to find a home. Or maybe, please don't set anything on fire. Let me tell you the most epic story in this world's history. I read it in every book, heard it from every bard, and it still gives me chills. 1,000 years ago, 12 black dragons flew in from the endless western sea and settled in the dark sea. Their leader said, "Hide, standard dragon protocol." 3 of them said, "NH," and went on a vacation that involved stealing a kingdom's entire treasury, burning half a capital city, melting several towns, and killing humans for fun. Then a man named Dello stood up and said the medieval equivalent of, "I'll handle this." He tracked the dragons to the coast. What followed is the most insane fight sequence the bards have ever sung about. First, Dello hit the 2 young dragons with cross-sword slashes. They tanked it. Dragon scales are basically armor-plated armor. So he launched a ranged sword strike that missed the dodging dragon and instead cut the ocean in half. A water canyon across the sea surface. Missed, and still the most destructive attack anyone had seen. The adult black dragon took offense at a human making it dodge. Blasted Dello with dragon fire. Dello punched through the flames wrapped in lightning-infused battle aura, sliced through the scales, and severed a wing. Dragon crashed. Then the adult and remaining young dragon double-teamed him. The big one's acid breath, then direct melee combat. Dragon claws ripped off Dello's arm. A wing slam sent him into the deep ocean. The dragons started destroying everything in celebration. Then the ocean formed a whirlpool. A water tornado rose from the depths with a one-armed man standing on top of it, radiating battle aura like a thunderstorm given human shape. The adult black dragon deployed its inherited magic, Wall of Size, a barrier technique passed down from its dragon father. Lightning met magic. Both crashed to earth. Massive crater. At the bottom, a bloody human kneeling on a sword, standing on top of a dead dragon with a hole punched through its heart. Dello cut off the dragon's head with his last breath, then died. That man became the first Saint Knight. The dragon's landing site became what's now called Holy Fall Harbor in the Cis Empire. The bards end there, but the real story continues. The 2 surviving young dragons fled to the Dark Sea. When the other 9 dragons heard their companion was killed by a human, they went berserk. 12 angry dragons, 11 now, flew to the edge of the Dark Sea ready to erase humanity. Then another human appeared, floating in midair, a tiny speck against a sky full of dragons. He said one word. The dragons responded with acid and fire. Because dragons don't negotiate. Without any incantation, a magic circle bigger than an adult black dragon materialized behind the tiny human. Simultaneously, an even larger magic array appeared above the dragon swarm. The black dragon leader felt death approaching. It roared in dragon language something that roughly translates to, "What are you? Why do you fight your own kind?" The human said one word again. Same word. We don't know what it was. The story doesn't say. That human was Merlin. Full name, Merlin Cambin Liancabas Ambrosius. Title, Magic Spirit. Also known as Grand Archmage, Magic Pioneer, Creator of Ultimate Magic, and, oh yeah, Dragon Slayer. The greatest mage in 1,000 years of history. The guy who looked at a swarm of the most powerful creatures on the planet and responded with a single syllable and the magical equivalent of a nuclear arsenal. And here's what keeps me up at night. Remember when I touched the wasteland barrier and got mentally ejected? That barrier is a magical construct. Someone built it. And somewhere in an unknown dimension, a white-haired human floating above a crater full of dead monster demons glanced at his staff and said, "Something dirty touched it. That might be Merlin." The same guy who soloed a dragon swarm a millennium ago might have just noticed me poking his homework. I'm a mid-level mage who just learned Firewall last week. The guy whose security system I accidentally triggered can cast reality-warping magic without speaking. The power gap between us isn't a gap. It's the distance between an ant and the sun. But you know what? That ant has a pocket dimension, 80 nights, and ambition. Watch me climb, old man. I'm coming for your barrier. And this time I won't just touch it. So here's the rest of the Merlin story. The part the bards don't sing because it's too terrifying for pub entertainment. The black dragon leader attacked first. Dragon fire. Acid breath. Then a wing strike so fast it created a sonic boom. Standard dragon opener. Burn, melt, smash. Very straightforward creatures. Merlin responded with 3 words of incantation. For a guy who can cast without speaking, the fact that he chose to speak meant this spell was on another level. Super magic, space lock. The dragon's wings stopped mid-swing. The fire froze in midair. The acid hung suspended. The most powerful black dragon on the continent became a statue, locked in space itself. Like someone hit the pause button on reality. Then, one more word. Super magic, searing light. The massive magic circle above the dragon's swarm lit up. A pillar of pure light crashed down from the sky. Dragons fell. Ocean water evaporated. Steam filled the air. Young dragons' scales burned off. Their flesh sizzled. Adult dragons deployed defensive magic just to not die. And Merlin was just floating there, watching. The dragon leader broke free from the space lock. Impressive, actually, and asked in dragon tongue, "Who are you? How do you know about the Vortex Mirror Sea? How do you know MY history?" Merlin's answer. "Why would I tell you? You're not Norhog." The dragon started trembling. A full-grown adult black dragon, one of the most physically powerful creatures alive, shaking at the mention of a name. Norhog, whatever or whoever that is, apparently outranks an entire dragon swarm in the fear department. The dragon leader looked at its companions being slowly cooked alive under the light pillar and made the smartest decision of its very long life. "Honored one, we don't know your identity. We are willing to leave this land. Please spare my companions and the children." A black dragon, the species known for being violent, cunning, and arrogant. Begging, on behalf of its family. Merlin closed the magic circle. The light vanished. Revealed, a pile of scorched, smoking dragons lying in a crater where ocean used to be, before water rushed back in to fill the gap. Then Merlin laid down the law. "Stay here if you want. But for 1,000 years, you don't leave this sea. After that, leave or stay, I don't care. But never harm the beings of this continent again. Break this rule, and your entire species disappears from existence. You can also gamble that I won't live 1,000 years. A dragon tried to speak. "Shut up. I don't like being interrupted when I'm talking. Not by dragons either." Then, "Those 2 runts who slaughtered my people? They're dead. Even desperate black dragon Norhog can't save them." I said so. A spear of light fell from the sky, pierced through the young dragon's body. Then dozens of small magic circles appeared overhead, raining light spears until the dragon looked like a pincushion. Dark red dragon blood turned the sea crimson. The second young dragon was hiding in a cave on an island deep in the dark sea, licking its wounds. Suddenly, its body started separating into pieces. The space around it was being cut, sliced apart like invisible razors dividing reality itself. Super magic, space slash. Remote execution. From who knows how far away. Merlin killed a dragon he couldn't even see by cutting the fabric of space around it. 3 super tier spells. Space lock, searing light, light judgment, space slash. Each one capable of reshaping geography. And he used them like I use my flashlight spell, casually, efficiently, without breaking a sweat. The black dragon stayed. 1,000-year prison sentence in the dark sea, which is still running today. The dragonborn on those islands? They're the mutated descendants of humans who absorbed leaked dragon mana over centuries. The entire dragonborn civilization exists because Merlin told some dragons to sit in a corner for a millennium. Now the part that keeps me up at night. That barrier in MY Wasteland, the one covering the entire zone, keeping magical beasts locked in the girt forest, generating mana so thick it kills normal humans? That's a magic array. Someone built it. And based on what I've read, Merlin left a magic tower in the mist forest. But before that, He left something in eastern forest. The girt forest is east. The barrier is still running after 1,000 years. Merlin built my wasteland barrier. The greatest mage in history. A man who paralyzed dragons with a word and executed them from across an ocean. Casually dropped a continent-spanning magic array in my backyard before anyone alive today was born. And when I touched it, some white-haired being in another dimension said, "Something dirty. That might be Merlin. Still alive. After 1,000 years. Calling me dirty." The book, Magic Theory, the Bible of all mages, opens with, "Magic spirit is the greatest mage of the millennium." Then it quotes Merlin. If divine arts come from gods, then magic is the relationship between imagined power and natural forces. And then the legendary follow-up quote, "Holy men get power from their gods' handouts. Mages use their own mental strength to wield nature." Doesn't that make mages better than holy men? That one joke created a 1,000-year rivalry between the church and mages. An entire civilization-spanning grudge match started because one overpowered wizard talked trash about priests. I aspire to that level of chaos. End of Volume 1. Foundation of Pioneering. I started as the useless third son with 30 cavalry and a dream. Now I have a castle, 80 knights, 500 cavalry, a spy network, an assassination organization, a trade alliance, 20,000 citizens, a pocket dimension, mid-level. Magic. And the knowledge that a 1,000-year-old magic array built by history's greatest mage is sitting on my property like an unexploded bomb made of pure potential. Volume 2. Winds of War. The Cis Empire is coming. The continent is about to burn. And a 21-year-old baron with a red moon flag is standing in the path of history with nothing but ambition, a bleeding pair of feet, and the absolute refusal to die quietly. Let them come. All of them. I didn't build Moonlight Fortress to watch from the sidelines. I built it to change the world. And if the world doesn't want to change, I'll change it anyway. Hades Write Akikan Biondi Mulan. Signing off from Volume 1. See you in the war. I didn't witness any of this directly, but intelligence has a way of reaching me. Through Dad's networks, Elena's spy girls, and the General Whisper. Mill that connects every noble house on the continent. And what I learned made the 5-year war clock feel like it might be running faster than expected. 80 years ago, a Cis Empire Duke named Zbigniew Hastings made a prediction on his deathbed that was so accurate it's scary. He basically mapped out the entire future of continental geopolitics from his pillow. Let me paraphrase. Once we conquer Volan, we're the dominant power. But the Oran Empire will become our biggest rival. Their history, culture, diversity, and institutions will push them to seek supremacy in the center of the continent. Long-term, their system is actually better than ours. A dying Cis Empire Duke admitted our system is superior. From his deathbed, the man had zero reason to lie anymore. Then he listed 3 alliances that the Cis Empire must prevent at all costs. 1. Oran Empire plus Rampa Kingdom. Our military muscle combined with their economic genius. He called it unbeatable, flattering. 2. Saxon Kingdom plus Desert Tribes plus Rampa. Military strength, vast territory, economic power, plus geographic positioning that would box both empires into the center-west. A containment alliance. 3. Oran Empire plus the Desert Tribes. This one would make any eastern campaign by the Cis Empire literally impossible. Our combined territorial depth would swallow invading armies like quicksand. Current Emperor Asta IV finally dusted off Grandpa Zbignew's playbook and started executing it. 30 years ago, the Cis Empire torpedoed a near alliance between US and Rampa Kingdom by engineering a border dispute. Textbook Hastings Doctrine. Prevent, disrupt, divide. They've been following this dead man's strategy for decades. Meanwhile, the Cis Empire is playing both sides of the table. On the surface, Emperor Asta is having polite tea with Archmage Euroline from the Mist Forest, discussing peace, underground, full-scale war preparation, and brutal suppression of Volan resistance fighters. Speaking of which, the Volan situation is a nightmare and also kind of inspiring. A squad of 50 Volan rebels infiltrated the old capital, Angara City, disguised as a merchant caravan. Their mission: extract a former Volan nobleman named Drolov who'd become an unlikely resistance leader. Drolov's story is painfully common. Surrendered during the invasion to save his people from slaughter, got appointed as a mid-level cis empire bureaucrat for hearts and minds purposes, kept his head down for years, then started noticing how Volan people were treated as subhuman by southern cis settlers and officials. Started quietly helping. Became the unofficial leader of Angara's Volan community without ever wanting the job. Then radical elements came to him wanting to stage an uprising. He said a no. Threw them out. But collective will is stronger than individual refusal. He got dragged into leading 8,000 desperate Volan civilians in a coordinated revolt across 13 towns. The problem? The Cis Empire's Council of 10, the Emperor's personal intelligence apparatus specializing in espionage, sabotage, assassination, poisoning water supplies, planting female spies, forging documents, already knew everything. The entire uprising was being allowed to develop so the Empire could use it as bait for a massive purge. Draw out every hidden rebel cell, then crush them all at once. The extraction squad got intercepted on the way out. 200 elite cavalry from Duke Elisha's territory ran them down. 50 became 20. 20 formed a circular shield wall, burning through hand crossbow bolts, buying time. Their squad leader, bleeding from a shoulder wound, wearing cheap leather instead of real armor, looked at his remaining fighters and thought, such good young people. They switched to a wedge formation and charged north. The point man, home, hacked through 2 riders and broke through the first ring. Then the second, bodies falling behind him. Old comrade Billy's silhouette gone. But home kept going. Forward, forward, horse bleeding, body bleeding, pain forgotten. One direction, north. Because their leader Hito once said, as long as the nation hasn't been restored, every Volan who died for it is still alive. 20-some rebels against 200 elite cavalry, fighting for a kingdom that fell 30 years ago, following a philosophy that turns death into a form of living. I sit in my warm castle reading intelligence reports about people dying for a cause that looks hopeless from the outside, and I think 2 things. First, the Cis Empire is bleeding resources trying to digest Volan. 30 years, and they still can't kill the resistance. That's strategic information. An empire that's still fighting internal fires can't launch a full Eastern campaign at peak strength. Second, there are people out there willing to die for something bigger than themselves. Not for gold, not for titles, for an idea, for a dead kingdom's memory. I started this journey wanting to build an army. Somewhere along the way, I realized armies aren't built from weapons and gold. They're built from people who believe in something worth dying for. The Volan rebels have that. The Cis Empire doesn't. They have obedience, which is different. If I can give my people something to believe in, truly believe in, then Moonlight Fortress won't just survive the coming war. It'll outlast empires. 5 years. Maybe less. The clock is ticking, and across the continent, the pieces are already moving. Volume 2, Winds of War. Let's go. Meanwhile, on the other side of the continent, the Volan resistance was getting hammered. That rebel rider home actually escaped. He didn't believe it himself. But what he didn't see was 3 riders on a hill watching him go. The middle one, a guy named Teague wearing fancy plate armor under a dark cloak. With a gilded rapier, casually said, Lizrel, find where the rats are hiding. Teague is Seat 9 of the Council of 10, the Cis Emperor's personal black ops division. Espionage, assassination, poisoning wells, planting female spies, forging documents. These guys make my Elena intelligence network look like a book club. Behind him, 2,000 elite cavalry from 2 different Cis Empire nobles, ready to sweep through the northern mountains where the resistance is hiding. 10 camps, nearly 100,000 Volan refugees and fighters, all led by former Duke Miltwan. The Cis Empire knows exactly where they are and has been letting the rebellion grow so they can crush everything in one massive purge. But here's the twist. The rebels aren't alone. Someone from the Oran Empire has been supplying them. Weapons from the Arish family in Raya province. Horses from Eagle territory, that's US, the Mulan family. Supplies from the Royal Rosina territory. Even knights and trainers sent to help build their fighting force. Dad's been arming the Volan resistance. Quietly, through multiple channels. Plausible deniability everywhere. The Mulan family is already fighting a proxy war against the Cis Empire, and I didn't even know about it until recently. Back home, I was completely absorbed in my 2-point daily routine. Wake up, try to access pocket dimension, Fail. Go to the wasteland to practice magic. Come back. Try pocket dimension again. Fail. Sleep. Repeat. My territory had grown to 30,000 people. 5,000 of them Volan refugees fleeing the latest crackdowns. And I hadn't even noticed because I was too busy being a magic hermit. Then one snowy morning, Belair and I were out in the eastern wasteland. Me practicing incantations, Belair lying on the carriage roof watching snowflakes, Skin standing at a distance looking concerned as usual. Belair suddenly appeared next to me. A figure was walking toward us from the east, from the direction of the wasteland, where normal humans literally cannot survive. If we can beat them, capture. If not, run, I said. Sent Skin west toward Rhine City for backup. Then we waited. Me and my mystery coachman knight, standing in the snow, watching a shape materialize through the blizzard. A woman, white mage robes, crescent moon crown on her head, walking through a magical death zone that crushes regular humans like a vice. And she looked fine. Cold maybe, but physically unharmed. A mage, from the Mist Forest, one of the 11 who left on their field missions. The one who got lost, burned 9 robbers to charcoal, and followed a farmer's wrong direction straight to my doorstep. She walked right up to us, rubbing her frozen hands, looked at me with big, curious eyes, and asked, "Excuse me, how do I get to the Steel Fortress?" Belair vanished from his spot. A hand chop to the neck. She collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. By the time the disturbed snowflakes settled, she was unconscious on the ground. The entire interaction took maybe 2 seconds. I stood there the whole time with a spell ready. Shard Storm, my current strongest combat magic, fully prepared to unleash it if she attacked. She didn't. She literally just wanted directions. And we knocked her out. Turns out she'd wandered into the wasteland, walked all the way to the girt forest barrier, couldn't get through, shrugged, and walked back out. The magical death zone that stopped my Grand Knight and Glory Knight? She strolled through it like a park because she's a natural mana user. The barrier that nearly killed me when I touched it? She poked it and said, "Huh, weird," and left. And the entire time she was following her teacher's instruction to not use magic unnecessarily. She could have cast warming spells, movement enhancement, detection magic, but she didn't because teacher said no. She was freezing, lost, and stumbling through a supernatural wilderness on principle. I respect the dedication. I also drugged her and chained her up in my dungeon. Look, I know what a mage can do. I am one. A conscious, unrestrained mage in an enclosed space is basically a bomb with opinions. So yes, I had her limbs chained, mouth gagged with a stick and cloth strips, and force-fed a custom weakness potion I brewed specifically for situations like this. Is this how fairy tales start? Beautiful, mysterious woman appears from a snowstorm and the prince chains her in a basement? Maybe. But fairy tale princes don't live in a world where one wrong spell can level a city block. I'll be romantic after I confirm she's not here to kill me. Her name, which I learned later, Dracula. Lost mage. Mist Forest graduate. 0 survival skills. Maximum destructive capability. Currently unconscious in my dungeon after asking for directions. Welcome to Moonlight Fortress, Dracula. The hospitality is unconventional. Interrogation time. Me in a chair, Belair and Arsa flanking like bodyguards in a mob movie, and a chained-up mage girl who looked at the 3 of us and immediately jumped to the conclusion that we were the evil landlord's son and 2 thugs from a storybook about to do unspeakable things. Her face went red. Her ears went red. She started struggling against chains she had 0 strength to break because of MY custom weakness potion. The girl was preparing for the wrong kind of danger. Can you hear me? Blink if yes. She blinked. Long lashes, big watery eyes, looking at me like a kicked puppy. Devastating visual. I maintained my poker face through sheer willpower. I explained the situation. My land. She trespassed, unknown intentions, captured for security purposes. Standard stuff. Then I gave her a partial antidote, removed the gag, and Arsa helpfully placed his sword at her throat. She gasped for air, clearly wanted to yell at me. Saw the blade. Swallowed her words. What's your name and where are you from? My name is Dracula Fagini Vi. Stop. Just Dracula. Brief answers. Understand. I'm from a city inside a forest. Which forest? Which city? Use real words. Oh, you people call it the Mist Forest. Magic City. Hey, aren't you a mage too? Why are you treating me like Shut up. I ask, you answer. You haven't grasped your situation, little sister. Your life is in my hands. I could kill you right now, bury you somewhere, and nobody would ever know. Her story came tumbling out. Going to Steel Fortress. A farmer pointed east. She walked east. Found the wasteland. Walked through it because mana doesn't bother her. Reached the girt forest. Tried to enter. Couldn't. Giant barrier. Walked back. Met us. Got knocked out. Woke up in chains. Why are you going to Steel Fortress? Can I not answer that one? No, but my teacher said keep it secret. Do you want to see your teacher again? Oh? Okay. Her teacher sent 11 mages out to prevent a continental war. Her specific mission: convince Grand Duke Purtis at Steel Fortress to participate in opposing the Cis Empire's aggression. If she failed to persuade him, she could drop her teacher's name. Apparently, he's been friends with the Duke since the teacher was 200 years old. He's 230 now. Then she asked, "Are you Duke Purtis? You're so young for a Duke." My teacher said, "Oh wait, you're a mage too. So how old are you actually, Anne? ARSA. Gag her. I can't take it. But you said I'd be free. Hey, MMPH, MMPH, MMPH. Ah, silence. Beautiful silence. I sent Belair and Arsa out. Belair left whistling. Arsa hesitated, told me, call if you need me, stay safe, and followed. They both assumed I wanted privacy to continue the interrogation. That's all. I walked toward Dracula with my friendliest smile. She saw a man approaching her while she was chained up, and her brain went straight back to the storybook scenario. She thrashed against the chains, squeezed her eyes shut, turned her head away, whole body tense, waiting for. I removed the gag. Unlocked the chains. They clattered to the floor. She didn't even notice at first. Her brain was blank. Then she heard the chains drop and opened her eyes. Found my face inches from hers. Blue eyes meeting whatever color hers are. Her heartbeat was so loud I could hear it. And then, I don't know why, I got locked into her gaze. Like a magnet. Like electricity. Like my brain decided now was an excellent time to stop functioning. Two people frozen in a dungeon, faces way too close, both completely paralyzed by something. We turned away at the exact same moment. Both blushing. Me internally chanting, sinful, sinful, sinful. I'm building an empire. I'm preparing for continental war. I do not have time to get hypnotized by a lost mage girl's eyeballs in my own basement. Ahem. I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have treated you so roughly, Lady Dracula. No, I trespassed without permission. It's my fault. She wouldn't look at me. I wouldn't look at her. Two adults acting like 12-year-olds who accidentally touched hands. I grabbed the chair, set it in front of her, and switched to professional mode. Please sit. Rest. I have some questions I'd like your help with. Magical questions. If you know the answers, please share them, because that's why she's valuable. Not the eyes. Not the heartbeat thing. The magic knowledge. A mist forest mage who walked through my wasteland like it was a garden path and touched the girt forest barrier without dying. She might know things about magical constructs that could take me years to figure out alone. Also, she's kind of adorable, but that is not relevant to strategic planning. Sinful. Absolutely sinful. I need to go practice combat magic and think about anything else. Time for the real interrogation, the magical one. That barrier around the forest. Do you know what kind of magic it is? Dracula's eyes lit up like I'd offered her candy. The terrified prisoner vanished and was replaced by an excited nerd. Apparently, the fastest way to befriend a mage is to ask them about magic theory. She analyzed it on the spot. A construct that massive, running for over 500 years, isn't one spell. It's multiple spells layered together. The barrier itself, the energy source sustaining it, the concealment effect, the range limiter, all woven into a single mega-ray. Then she connected the dots I'd been hoping she'd connect. Her teacher once mentioned that Merlin's real masterpiece wasn't the dragon fight. It was the Girt Mountain Range, a magical construct protecting the continent from demons. If that was Merlin's work, and the Girt Forest Barrier is connected to the Mountain Range Barrier, only someone at Merlin's level could build something approaching eternal like this. My teacher's best work, the Eternal Furnace, is nothing compared to these two. The Eternal Furnace. Oleg's tribe's holy relic. Built by Dracula's teacher's teacher. My dwarf buddy's sacred broken furnace was made by this woman's grand teacher. The connections in this world are insane. I tried asking if her teacher was an archmage. She got snippy. That's not the point. And why should I tell you? Fair enough. Moving on to my real question. Disguised, naturally, as being about a friend. So I have this friend who tried to force cast a spell way above his level, drained his spiritual energy completely, passed out for 2 days, and afterward couldn't access any magic for over a week. What happened to him? Dracula went full professor mode. Your friend is an arrogant idiot. Forcing a spell beyond your capacity doesn't just drain you. It can permanently damage your spirit pool. The backlash ranges from losing magical perception to becoming a vegetable to death. That. Serious? Your teacher never taught you this? What kind of mage are you? I'm mainly an enchanter. My teacher called me a genius, taught me spell analysis and incantation methods, then basically said, "You're done," and left. Dracula sighed like a disappointed mother. Is your friend okay now? Yeah, fine. Good. Lucky he didn't become a drooling idiot. You'd have been sad. Real subtle insinuation there, lady. Real subtle. How does he recover? Obviously, increased spiritual power. If your pool was a puddle before and got cracked, make it a lake. The expanded capacity heals the damage. And if the pool was already lake-sized, does he need a spirit SEA? Yes. Wow, you're actually smart. Are you really a genius? Anyway, how old are you? Time to lie. 51. Oh, I'm 65. We're practically the same age. We could be friends. I've never had a friend from outside Magic City before. I turned to stone. This woman who looks 25 is 65. Mages and their anti-aging nonsense. I said 51 because I figured saying 21 would create problems. Now she thinks we're peers and wants to be besties. I almost called her Auntie before catching myself. Sister, could you maybe stay here for a while? You said we could be friends. Well, now we're friends. What do you think? No? I need to complete my Steel Fortress mission. How do you know this isn't Steel Fortress? Because I've met Duke Purtis before. Ha ha ha. Outsmarted by a directionally challenged mage. My pride took a hit. Time for the big pitch. Real war won't start for at least 2 years. Stay at Moonlight Fortress. Help my friend recover. We can research the Girt Forest barrier together. Don't you want to study a Merlin-level magical construct up close? Her eyes went so wide I thought they'd fall out. The magic nerd couldn't resist. A Merlin artifact sitting right there, waiting to be studied? That's her version of a dragon horde. Sold. I called for Arsa to open the dungeon door. We walked out together. Me and the woman I'd chained up, drugged, gagged, and interrogated less than an hour ago, now chatting like old-school friends. Arsa stared at us in pure confusion. After we left, he turned to Belair. That's it. She's fine now. Belair, walking away. What do you know about women? Spend enough time with one, and you can convince her of anything. Amateur. Arsa stood alone for a full minute processing this. Then started walking, muttering to himself. So if you just fight them long enough, they submit? That makes sense. Anyone can do that. Arsa. That is not what happened. That is not the lesson. Please do not apply this logic to any future interaction with women. Please. So let me recap my day. I knocked out a 65-year-old mage who looks 25, chained her in my dungeon, had an eye contact moment that short-circuited both our brains, learned critical information about my broken spirit pool, lied about my age, and recruited a Mist Forest graduate to be my live-in magic tutor by dangling Merlin's homework in front of her like bait. From prisoner to friend in under an hour. My networking skills transcend dimensions. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a little voice is whispering. Her teacher's teacher built Oleg's furnace. Her teacher knows Duke Purtis. She can walk through your wasteland like it's a park. She knows magical theory you've never even heard of. And she has no friends. I just stumbled into the most valuable person I've met since arriving in this world. And she was looking for directions. The universe keeps throwing me gifts wrapped in chaos. I'm not complaining anymore. I'm just catching. Dracula moved in. Just like that. From prisoner to roommate in 24 hours. My hospitality pipeline is getting more efficient. She's the opposite of every noble woman I've met. No pretension, no careful posture, no measured words. She bounces between hyperactive curiosity and intense focus like a puppy with a PhD. She refused maids, explores everything, and the moment she tasted my chef's cooking, she basically proposed to Moonlight Fortress. The way to a mage's heart is through her stomach, apparently. Silver hair to her waist. Blue eyes. devastating in a silver-gray robe. I know this because Skin described it. I was not looking. I was busy trying to fix my broken magic. My spirit pool got cracked from that barrier incident, and I'd been spinning my wheels trying every recovery method. Meditation? Too slow. Potions? Temporary. Advanced spell study? My brain was too scattered. So I swallowed my pride and asked Dracula for help. Her prescription: go study the Gert Forest barrier directly. Try to analyze its magical structure, replicate parts of it, then modify those replications into different spells. Basically, reverse engineer Merlin's homework as a training exercise. Like learning to paint by copying the Mona Lisa, except the Mona Lisa is a continent-spanning magical superweapon. I like the plan. But first, territory business. Called everyone to the war room. Elvis, Alvin, Thomas, Arsa, Belair. Military reports, city updates, development progress. Everything was on track. My response to every challenge remained consistent. Spend more money. Still a problem? Spend even more. Last month, I dumped 5 wagons of medicine at Elvis and Alvin's office. 300 awakening potions, 2,000 training medicines, and 100 enchanted armor sets. Translation: make me 100 new knights. Minimum. Thomas's City Hall received 50 million gold coins worth of bank checks from Kofi. That's 50 years of income for an average barony, delivered in one box. Thomas probably needed a moment alone with that number. These 2 deliveries emptied my pocket dimension completely. Everything I'd stockpiled over years gone. Medicines, enchanted gear, all of it. Distributed between Moonlight Fortress and Eagle Territory. 300 enchanted sets went to Dad's knights as gifts. In return, Eagle Territory shipped 500 premium war horses. Fair trade. My pocket dimension is still unresponsive. Every morning I try to connect. Every morning, nothing. I'm operating without my cheat code for the first time since I was 8 years old. Everything I spend now is from real resources, not magical duplication. Terrifying? Yes, but the investments are made. The pieces are moving. Then I drop the real bomb on the meeting. The Volan resistance situation, that's on me. I missed the window while studying magic. But it's not too late. Elvis, take a team. Your pick. Go to the northern mountains where the Volan rebels are holed up. Moonlight Fortress needs to make its name known. When we emerge on the continental stage later, people should already know who we are. Priority 1. Come back alive. After that, give the Cis Empire some surprises. Alvin and Thomas handle logistics and refugee reception. Whatever refugees other territories reject, we take them all. Remember, Moonlight Fortress can absorb unlimited people. I'm sending my best glory knight into an active war zone across the border to fight the Cis Empire's forces, rescue Volan refugees, and build Moonlight Fortress's reputation. Proxy war participation. Just like Dad's been doing, but now it's my turn. Meanwhile, in the former Volan kingdom, the Cis Empire's cleanup was reaching its final stage. That rebel fighter home, who escaped earlier, he led the Cis Empire's tracker straight to the mountain hideout. Not on purpose. The Council of 10, Agent Teague let him escape specifically so they could follow him. 2,000 elite Cis cavalry rode north to the mountains. But they stopped at a town called Hadua first. The tavern owner there had been praying for business for years. His Ice Bear pub, 3 generations old, was nearly bankrupt. When a wounded man burst in, ordered whiskey and venison, and paid with a gold coin. The owner smiled for the first time in months. The man asked about a back exit. Left through the kitchen. A second customer arrived. The owner thought his prayers were truly answered. He was already planning to light the fireplace again if a third customer showed up. He never got the chance. The second visitor stabbed him through the throat after getting the information he needed. An hour later, Hadua didn't exist anymore. 2,000 cavalry turned the town into a military camp. Every resident killed. Only their livestock survived. The Cis Empire doesn't do proportional response either. They do erasure. And I'm about to send my people into that. Because if Moonlight Fortress wants to matter on the continental stage, we can't just build walls and train soldiers. We need to show the world we're willing to fight. The hearth at the Ice Bear Tavern will never burn again. But the fires I'm starting? Those are just getting started. I wasn't there for any of this, but Elvis sent reports and the intelligence network filled in the gaps. Here's what was happening while I was studying magic with my new mage roommate. The Volan resistance got gutted. Every single undercover cell, Angara City, Baked, Udo, by Lenny, Jenny, Alican, Cern Port, Rakata's Fortress, all destroyed in one coordinated strike. Years of careful infiltration, gone. The Cis Empires, Council of 10, played them like a fiddle, letting the rebellion grow just big enough to expose everyone, then cutting every thread at once. In the mountain hideout, Resistance leader Count Hitta broke the news to his commanders with red eyes. The room went through 5 stages of grief in about 30 seconds. Some guys punched the table and screamed, "Let's charge out and die fighting," because apparently that's the default Volan response to bad news. Then a guy named Banks stood up and gave the most powerful speech I've ever read in an intelligence report. His story: 18 years old when the kingdom fell, missed the last ship to the islands, got turned away at the Saxon border because refugees couldn't pay the crossing fee, watched people commit suicide from despair, found salvation under Duke Buzet, who gave refugees all his land, all his food, disbanded his army, and became a farmer himself. 5 years of peace. Then the Cis Empire came north, slaughtered everyone, killed Buzet, burned everything. Banks's conclusion? We're not fighting to restore a kingdom. We're fighting so Volan people know they're not born to be slaves. Even if we all die, someday our story will bloom in the hearts of millions. Then, plot twist, he also wanted to fight. But smart fighting. The Cis Empire has an army outside these mountains right now. Let them come in. We'll give them a proper welcome. Us old guys were getting cold anyway. Time to warm up. Love this guy. Poetic and tactical. Banks for president. Meanwhile, that rebel rider home who escaped earlier? He figured out he was the bait. The Cis Empire let him go so they could follow him to the hideout. So he deliberately went east instead of toward camp, planning to find a mountain, ambush one tracker, and call it a life well spent. He tied his sword to his hand with his belt and sat behind a tree in waist-deep snow, waiting to trade his life for one enemy. And now, my people enter the picture. Elvis led a column of nearly 500 fighters through a frozen mountain pass at the intersection of the Red Mountain Canyon and the Volan Northern Highlands. They had a local guide who only spoke Quail language and a translator from Eagle Territory, a Volan refugee who learned Imperial Common 10 years ago. Communication went. Elvis speaks Imperial translator converts to Quail guide points at Snow. Very efficient 3-step process. How much longer? Translation chain activates. Answer comes back. 2 days. Faster. The force composition was my proudest achievement in army building so far. Elvis commanding. 5 Justice Knights, including Heather and Chelsea. 30 Brave Knights. 41 Squires. 20 veteran cavalry from Eagle Territory, leading 200 regular riders. Everyone double-horsed. 1 riding, 1 carrying gear. Top-tier Moonlight Fortress equipment across the board. Plus, 12 Hashishin, Brother Mercenary Company, operatives, supernatural killers, 20 paid Rhine City mercenaries, 50 of Greens, relief squad, members, former slavers turned humanitarian workers, still tough as nails, 33 volunteer convicts from the Criminal Construction Brigade. These madmen signed up to fight in a foreign war for a chance at freedom, and 50 Beta warriors. 500 people stretched across a frozen mountain pass in a blizzard. Knights, mercenaries, assassins, reformed criminals, and axe-wielding island warriors, all marching toward a battlefield where a 2,000-strong Cis Empire cavalry force is already massacring civilians. Elvis had a bad feeling. Because of course he did. The man's survival instincts are legendary, and they were screaming. I'm sitting in my warm castle studying barrier magic with a 65-year-old woman who looks 25. My people are freezing their way into someone else's war 500 miles away. This is what building a reputation costs. Not gold, not potions. Lives. My people's lives, risked in someone else's mountains, so that someday when Moonlight Fortress needs allies, the world will know we showed up when it mattered. Banks said the Volan resistance story would bloom in millions of hearts someday. I'm betting that Moonlight Fortress's story starts blooming right here. In a frozen pass, in a foreign land, marching toward a fight that isn't ours. But it is ours now. Because I said so. Volume 2, Winds of War. The wind is howling. The reports kept rolling in from Elvis's expedition, and honestly, my people are terrifying. In the best way possible. First, home. That rebel fighter who figured out he was being used as bait? He deliberately led his tracker away from the rebel camp, into random mountains, knowing he'd die. The Cis Empire's agent Lizrel caught him, pinned his arm to a tree with a thrown sword, kicked him repeatedly, demanded the rebel's location. Home didn't say one word, just lifted his bloody head, looked at his killer, and smiled. A dying man's final act of defiance, grinning at his executioner with blood pouring from his mouth. Was it mockery? Was it satisfaction? Both. Definitely both. Lizrel was so furious he screamed into the mountains. A professional tracker and killer beaten by a dead man's smile. Beautiful. Back at the Dead Tavern in Hadawa, the Cis commanders had a meeting. 2,000 cavalry, 0 leads. Lizrel admitted he'd been played. The 2-unit commanders, Mihal, built like a bear, and Pispik, immediately started a passive-aggressive blame game, pushing responsibility onto Lizrel while pretending to be concerned. Their solution? Burn everything. March west through the mountains, torch every village and town along the way, slaughter civilians until the rebels come out to fight. Classic, if we can't find the needle, burn the haystack, strategy. 3 commanders toasting drinks and laughing while planning genocide. Meanwhile, my people arrived at the other end of the map and executed one of the most elegant operations I've ever heard of. Target, Soda City. Former Volan border fortress turned trade town, now occupied by 500 Cis Empire soldiers. Population dropped from 80,000 to maybe 30,000 after 25 years of occupation and looting. The Cis garrison had gotten fat and lazy. Original occupiers already went home rich. Replacements were just running out the clock. The Volan underground in Sodu had been preparing, and when Elvis's force arrived nearby, they activated. Step 1. Old Bakerbeck and his son delivered hot wheat porridge to every gate guard and patrol soldier. Morning routine they'd done for months. Building trust. Being friendly neighborhood bakers. This morning's porridge contained enough sedative to knock out 10 cows per serving. 80-plus exterior guards went down face first into the snow within an hour. Sleeping like babies. Very drugged babies. Step 2. Martin and McBride, the official latrine cleaners, did their morning rounds at the barracks. Replaced the waste buckets as usual. Locked each door behind them. Something they'd never done before, but the sleeping soldiers didn't notice because they were sleeping. The replacement buckets contained a slow-release poison that evaporated into the air. Soldiers who woke up feeling dizzy couldn't push open their locked doors. 300 men died in their bunks without making a sound. The entire Cis garrison, 400 soldiers, eliminated without a single sword being drawn. Porridge and poison. Bakers and toilet cleaners. The most devastating military operation executed by people whose weapons were soup bowls and poop buckets. Step 3. The City Lord's compound. 50 elite guards plus 5 knights, the only real fighters left. They sensed something wrong, charged outside, and found streets full of cavalry, or an Empire-style armor, or an Empire weapons, or an Empire war horses, and mixed in among them, familiar faces. Locals, neighbors, the baker, the latrine guy, all in armor now. The Cis soldiers felt cold, not from the weather. Elvis hadn't even needed to fight yet. The Volan underground did the dirty work with kitchen supplies while my cavalry just showed up looking intimidating. 500 soldiers eliminated with minimal combat. An entire city flipped in one morning. I'm studying magical theory in my castle library while my people are conducting covert warfare using breakfast food as a weapon delivery system. The Mulan approach to military operations. Swords are Plan B. Plan A is always, can we solve this with soup? Home died smiling. 300 soldiers died sleeping. And somewhere in between, Moonlight Fortress just announced itself to the continent in the most dramatic way possible, by taking an enemy city without the enemy even knowing there was a battle. Winds of war, baby. And the wind smells like poison porridge. Reports kept coming in from Elvis's operation, and I have to say, everyone involved was performing at peak lethality. The Cis Empire sent out 100 scouts and 10-man squads to sweep ahead of their 2,000 cavalry force. These guys are the elite of the elite, best trained, fastest reacting, coolest under pressure. In any army, scouts are the cream of the crop. 7 of those 10 squads got ambushed by Volan resistance fighters wearing white cloaks that blended perfectly with the snow. Invisible until they were already shooting arrows at your face. One engagement went like this. Arrow through a scout's ear, instant kill. Squad scatters, professional response, impressive discipline. Then dozens of white-cloaked riders materialized from the snowfield. The scout captain sent one man to warn the main force, then charged into a fight outnumbered 4-1 with his remaining 6. Because that's what elite scouts do. The fighting was brutal. Close-range cavalry melee. Imperial eagle claw knives versus Orin-style sabers. No tricks, just cutting. The scout captain alone killed 3 attackers before going down. Stood there swinging slower and slower as blood poured from everywhere, looking around for squad mates who were already dead. His final emotion wasn't fear, it was loneliness. The white cloaks cleaned up fast. Dead brothers loaded onto captured horses. Wounded shared mounts. Enemy gear collected. Intelligence documents grabbed. Then they vanished back into the snow like ghosts. 7 squads hit simultaneously. Most wiped out completely. A few individual riders escaped to warn the main force. By the time Bearman Mihal and Pispik arrived with 2,000 cavalry, empty snow, dead scouts, 0 enemies in sight. Lizrel, the tracker who got trolled by Home's dying smile, rode in from scouting and reported. They all went west, toward the mountains near Soda City. Mihal grinned. See? Killing civilians works. They finally came out. Let's sweep east to Sodu for supplies, then go into the mountains and exterminate them. They're heading to Sotu, the city my people already captured, where the garrison is already dead from poisoned porridge and toxic toilet buckets, where 1,000 Volan cavalry are hiding inside the walls wearing Cis Empire uniforms. They're walking into a trap and they don't even know it. Beautiful. Meanwhile, Elvis's column was discovering the Cis Empire's handiwork firsthand. Burned villages. Every single one. 9 settlements turned to ash and corpses. A Quile tribesman guide stared at the ruins of his neighbors' homes in shock. Elvis asked through the translation chain what happened. The guide just said, "It was fine when I left. I don't know how everything's gone." Elvis sent scouts in both directions. Chris and Angus found tracks, at least 1,000 cavalry, heading east. The Hashishin scouts went 50 miles ahead and confirmed. Every village along the route was destroyed. No survivors. Not even livestock left alive. All tracks pointed east towards Sotu. Elvis sat down to think. 500 of my people versus at least 2,000 Cis Empire cavalry. Direct engagement? Stupid. Heavy casualties for a fight that isn't even our primary mission. Our goal is refugees. Population for Moonlight Fortress. Fighting the Cis Empire is the side quest. And if we're going to fight, we do it smart. Wait until the Volan resistance engages the Cis main force, then hit them from behind. Maximum impact, minimum cost. As I told Elvis, maximize the value. Elvis needed intel on exactly where the Cis force was. He turned to the Hashishin mercenaries. Bartley, your first scouting trip wasn't worth 12 medicine doses. Do one more job and they're all yours. What? Go back out. Find the Cis army. Just locate them. Don't engage. With your speed, 250 miles to Sodu and back should be doable. Are you kidding? That's extra. The 12 Hashishin operatives left cursing and swearing. Professional assassins being used as delivery scouts. They were not happy about the job description change. But medicine doses are medicine doses. Elvis is cautious to a fault. Military academy trained. 0 real combat experience. Compensates with thorough preparation. Every move calculated. Every risk measured. The opposite of my brother Lwen, who'd have already charged into something dramatic. 2,000 Cis cavalry heading toward a city that's secretly been captured by the people they're trying to destroy. My 500 fighters trailing behind them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. White-cloaked resistance fighters picking off scouts like wolves culling a herd. And me? I'm in my castle learning intermediate ice magic from a 65-year-old woman who looks 25. Everyone's doing their part. Mine just happens to involve less dying and more studying. For now, the trap is set. The prey thinks it's the hunter. And Moonlight Fortress is about to make its continental debut by stabbing an empire in the back at the worst possible moment. Maximize the value. That's not just a business principle. It's a war doctrine. The Cis cavalry stopped 10 miles from Sodu and immediately figured out something was wrong. Lizrel reported the city had been taken. Bearman Mihal slapped his own thigh and laughed. Great. Saves us going into the mountains. The rats came to US. Pispik, For once not just agreeing with Mile. Actually thought strategically. They won't just be in the city. There'll be forces in the mountains or behind us ready to pincer. Mile, since when do rat catchers worry about too many rats? We fight. Their plan, split into two formations. Mnemonic heavy cavalry up front, Kalba javelin cavalry behind. 100 scouts ringing the perimeter. Classic, we know it's a trap, but we're going anyway, formation. Inside Sotu, Banks, the resistance commander with the incredible speeches, sent a message to Count Hida. If you sortie from the north and I attack from the city, it's a pure slugfest. No tactics, just who dies first. Or you stay in the city, they siege you, wait for reinforcements, and crush you properly. Then his real proposal. Use the city garrison as bait. Let the CIS force commit to a siege. I'll take my mountain forces south, intercept their reinforcements, destroy them in the snowfields, then come back and eat these 2,000. Go big or go home. Hida asked his commanders for opinions. Silence. Fine, I'll decide. We hold the city. The resistance chose the gambling option. Bet the entire city garrison on Banks pulling off a double engagement. These people fight with the desperation of those who have absolutely nothing left to lose, which makes them more dangerous than professional soldiers. Meanwhile, my 12 Hashishin scouts found the CIS army, then got found themselves. A CIS Empire agent named Azrael dropped a sword strike that cratered the ground where they'd been sitting. Bartley's tactical assessment. He's Glory Knight level, but probably weaker than Elvis. How do you know? He looks like a pretty boy. How strong can he be? You're a Justice Knight talking trash about a Glory Knight. You have no shame. These assassins trash talk during ambushes. I love them. Terrible employees, incredible fighters. They scattered into an encirclement formation, because apparently 12 Hashishin think surrounding a Glory Knight is a reasonable plan. They've killed Glory Knights before, so it's not totally insane, just mostly insane. Azrael vaporized one Hashishin instantly, head flying, blood arcing. They responded with armor-piercing crossbow bolts. He dodged. 2 more attacked from front and back simultaneously with killing techniques. He avoided the front blade with an inhuman backbend, head parallel to the ground, grabbed one sword with his bare hand, and deflected the rear strike while counterattacking. One Hashishin got launched into a snowbank with a gash from shoulder to hip. Another lost his enhanced greatsword to a single parry. The fight was brutal and one-sided, but the Hashishin didn't stop, didn't retreat, didn't flinch. Their code, everyone dies or the enemy dies. No third option. Same energy as the Volan resistance. Different motivation, professional pride instead of national liberation, but identical result. People who fight past the point where any sane person would run. 2,000 CIS cavalry heading into a trap they half recognize. A city full of hidden rebels betting everything on a gamble. My Hashishin scouts fighting a Glory Knight because running isn't in their vocabulary. And Elvis somewhere behind all of this, calculating the perfect moment to strike. I'm reading these reports in my warm study thinking. I hired assassins who pick fights with people 2 ranks above them and resistance fighters who use breakfast as a weapon delivery system. My personnel recruitment strategy is unhinged and I wouldn't change a single hire. 2 things happened simultaneously on opposite ends of my world, and both made me want to scream with joy. First, my breakthrough. Dracula and I spent over a month camped at the Gert Forest Barrier, analyzing its magical structure. We reverse-engineered a section of it and created a brand new defensive spell. Indestructible Wall, a spherical magic barrier that costs high-tier mana to maintain. We literally stole homework from the greatest mage in history and turned it into our own spell. Academic theft at its finest. But the real victory? My spirit pool evolved into a spirit SEA. The thing Dracula said I needed to recover from my self-inflicted magical brain damage? Done. I grabbed Dracula and spun her around yelling. I got in. I got in. She shoved me off. Got into what? Wait. I mean it came out. My spirit sea formed. So? I've had one for ages. We're still just advanced mages. Archmage tier is way beyond us. Buzzkill. But she's right. Still, my pocket dimension is back. I rushed to the secret room, lay down, and dove in. The small world had changed. The herb garden was more lush than ever. But the world itself expanded by hundreds of times. And sitting on the new territory? A massive magical barrier. identical to the girt forest one. Same size, same structure, just empty inside. No forest, no beasts. My failed attempt to copy the barrier actually worked. My spirit pool just wasn't strong enough to handle the upgrade at the time. Disappointing that I didn't get the forest and monsters copied too. Unlimited beast cores would have been nice, but my cheat code is back and bigger. I practically skipped to the work cabin and started mass-producing potions and enchanted gear from the 5 remaining template sets. The assembly line is open again. Meanwhile, 500 miles away, my Hashashin were dying for me. 12 assassins versus Glory Knight Azrael. When we left off, they were getting slaughtered. Final score, 7 Hashashin down. 5 still standing. Azrael covered in wounds, but furious that a bunch of Justice Knight level flies were actually hurting him. The Hashashin strategy was beautiful in its brutality. Surround, provoke, trade injuries for injuries. Never let him focus on one target. Every time Azrael tried to finish someone, another would attack from behind. Repeat until the Glory Knight's aura runs low and his reflexes slow. It worked. Azrael started burning through battle aura recklessly, got sloppy, and the wounds accumulated. 2 more Hashashin went down. Just 3 left, including Bartley. Final exchange. 1 Hashashin buried a short sword in Azrael's back. Got his arm cut off for it. Another went head-to-head with a greatsword. Blade snapped, chest slashed open, sent flying. Then Bartley materialized at Azrael's side, drove his aura-coated dagger through the Glory Knight's throat, and ripped it forward. Azrael's counterswing caught Bartley in the side, but had no power behind it. The Glory Knight collapsed. Bartley stood over him, holding his wound, then sawed the head off because Hashashin don't leave loose ends. He looked around at his fallen comrades. 7 dead or broken. 5, maybe, would survive. Bartley spat blood on the snow and said what we were all thinking. They need to pay US more. Back at Soda City, the chess match was reaching its climax. Banks, the Resistance poet warrior, had changed plans. Instead of going south to intercept reinforcements, he brought his mountain cavalry out and engaged the 2,000-strong Cis force directly from the north. The Cis cavalry had stopped 5 miles from Sotu, expecting to siege the city. Instead, they got hit from behind while the city garrison prepared to charge out the eastern gate. Count Hitta ordered his infantry to wait for the battle to get messy, then cut off the southern escape route. Classic hammer and anvil. Except the hammer is coming from a mountain, and the anvil is a city full of people who've been waiting 30 years for this fight. Hitta's final word, certain victory. 2,000 Cis cavalry about to get sandwiched between mountain rebels and urban garrison forces. My Hashashin just decapitated a Glory Knight through sheer stubbornness. And I'm in my secret basement mass-producing enchanted armor again because my pocket dimension is back online. Everything is converging. The war machine is spinning up. The pieces are falling into place. And Bartley's right. They all deserve a raise. The reports from Sodu made my chest tight. Not from fear, from respect. Banks lined up his 500 lance cavalry, rode across the formation once, and screamed, "Volan! Victory!" 500 voices answered. Then he slotted himself into the front row center, not behind, not to the side, dead center, and charged. 500 lances versus 1,000 mnemonic heavy cavalry. 2 walls of steel and horse crashing together at full gallop. Lances punching through bodies. Horses colliding and dying on impact. Riders flying off saddles. The entire plain turning into a meat grinder. First pass, Banks lost half his riders. Half. In one charge. He turned around and charged again. Second pass, down to less than 100. Soaked in blood. Surrounded by corpses. Every one of them knew they were already dead. They lined up for a third charge. Bearman Mihal, who'd been personally skewering riders with a heavy lance like they were kebabs, looked at those 100 blood-drenched maniacs forming up and felt something he'd never felt fighting rats before, on ease. Not because they were strong, because they wouldn't stop. Their willpower was something his professional soldiers couldn't match. Then the scout horns blew. Hitta's garrison force, 1,500 riders, came pouring out of Sotu's east gate. 500 plate-armored lance cavalry, trained by Oran Empire instructors in front. 1,000 mounted infantry behind with hammers, cleavers, and shields. Hitta personally leading. Mihal cursed but didn't panic. His 700 surviving riders plus Pispik's force still had numbers. He sent guards to tell Pispik to absorb the first impact while he finished off Banks's last 100. Banks's third charge didn't break through. The survivors got swallowed by the mud of melee combat. Hacking, stabbing, drowning in enemy cavalry. Every single one died fighting. 500 lance riders. 0 survivors. Including Banks. The man who gave that beautiful speech about Volan dignity, who said their story would bloom in millions of hearts, who chose to lead the suicide charge so the rest could win, gone. Traded his life and 500 soldiers for the time Hida needed to arrive. Then Mihail looked south and saw Pispik's force running. The coward broke contact with the white cloaks and fled south without even engaging Hida's charge. Left Mihail's 700 to face 1,500 fresh enemies alone. Coward. Useless trash, but there was no time for anger. Hida's 500 plate cavalry were already 500 meters out and closing. Another 1,000 behind them. Mihail ordered his exhausted riders to reform. Still confident somehow, he noticed many of the incoming riders fought like first-timers. Green troops. Well-trained, but had never actually killed before. He was right. Half of Banks's lancers were young recruits on their first battle. Hida's plate cavalry were almost entirely rookies from the Orange training program. First battle. First charge. First kill. But Banks's rookies just died, charging 3 times into a force twice their size. These new soldiers were cut from the same cloth. First battle doesn't mean first heart. Meanwhile, Pispik's fleeing cavalry ran straight into a wall. 1,000 white cloak infantry had materialized in their escape path. Shields locked. Spears braced. Crossbows centered. Longbows in the back. Commander Lapa screaming himself hoarse. Shields forward. Spears up. Crossbows center. Archers back 50 meters. On my command. The formation locked just before the cavalry arrived. Longbows, fire. A rain of arrows fell on Pispik's cavalry from the front, while white cloak riders chased them from behind. 1,000 fleeing horsemen running into a wall of steel and wood with nowhere left to go. Pispik was already mentally drafting his "it was Mihail's fault" speech when the arrows started falling. Some people plan excuses faster than escape routes. The Volan resistance, the rats, just executed a triple-layer trap. Banks sacrificed himself to pin the main force. Hida charged from the city to finish them. Lapa's infantry sealed the southern exit. Hammer, anvil, and wall. 500 dead lancers bought this victory with their blood. Banks bought it with his life. These people fight with a fury that professional soldiers can't understand, because professionals fight for pay and rats fight for existence. I sat in my study reading these reports and thought about what Banks said. Even if we all die, our story will bloom someday. It's blooming right now, Banks. In my heart, and in the hearts of every soldier I'll ever train. Moonlight Fortress fights for the future. The Volan resistance fights for survival. And together, we just crushed 2,000 Cis Empire cavalry between a city, a mountain, and a wall of spears. Rest easy, Banks. Your name goes on the list of people I'll never forget. Right next to the 12 soldiers who died protecting me in the snow. Some debts you repay with victory. This one I'm paying with an empire. Elvis's battlefield debut was glorious. The reports read like an action movie script, except everyone involved was actually dying. Elvis gave orders like a machine gun fires bullets. Rapid, precise, devastating. Odralav, take your Beta warriors and chop that group. The big Beta leader scratched his head, nodded, and may or may not have understood which group to chop. Elvis didn't have time to teach target identification to a man whose combat philosophy is swing axe at not friends. Odralav's briefing to his men. Boys, the axes are hungry. Time to eat. 50 Beta berserkers charged screaming in their own language. Chris, Angus, take cavalry behind Odralav. Hit the enemy's back while our allies hit the front. Heather, Chelsea, Locke, Randolph, Raymond, Crimson Knight Order, with me. This is our first battle. I want enemy blood to announce our existence. Then the best part, the criminal brigade incentives. Convicts. 1 enemy head equals 3 months vacation. 2 heads equals 10 gold. 3 heads equals freedom. 5 heads, and you become a full citizen of Moonlight Fortress with legal protection. 33 former criminals who volunteered for a foreign war, just got told they can literally decapitate their way to citizenship. The most aggressive job performance review in history. Anyone who runs or delays combat. Executed on the spot. Motivational and threatening. My management style is genetic apparently. On the battlefield, things were getting desperate. Michael, Bearman, was smart despite looking like a walking mountain. He gathered his remaining 16 knights into an arrow formation and punched straight through the Volan plate cavalry. The new recruits, fighting their first real battle, froze when they saw riders getting obliterated by a human battering ram. Michael's shock tactic shattered their formation. Then his 700 riders pressed the advantage. Hida watched from behind with his 1,000 mountain troops, unable to charge in because the two armies were so tangled together that friendly fire would be catastrophic. Michael did that on purpose, mixed his troops into the enemy so deeply that reinforcements couldn't engage without killing their own. Pure evil tactical genius. Hida hesitated, instinctively turned to ask Banks for advice. Then remembered Banks was dead. The man who died leading 3 charges into impossible odds. Gone. 30 years of partnership ended in a snowfield. Hida steeled himself. If Banks could die for victory, so could those 500 new soldiers in the meat grinder. He was about to order the mountain troops to charge in regardless of casualties when. Look east. Who is that? Red Moon. Lone Wolf. My flag. Moonlight Fortress has entered the battle. The Betel warriors hit first. 50 axe-wielding maniacs who identify friends by armor color. Silver chest plate good. Chainmail bad. Per Odrelav's sophisticated target briefing. Axes split helmets. Necks skulls. 200 armored moonlight cavalry followed. Fully equipped heavy riders built for exactly this kind of close-quarters butchery. The mnemonic cavalry, designed for charges not melees, started drowning. Michael saw the tide turning and tried to break out with 50 elite guards. His heavy lance crushed 2 more riders blocking his path. The man was a one-man demolition crew even in retreat. Then Elvis arrived. 30-plus knights with battle aura blazing, cutting a highway of severed limbs straight toward Michael. Purple flash. One swing. Michael's head left his shoulders at high velocity. Bearman down. The biggest, loudest, most dangerous commander on the Cis side. Killed by one moonlit slash from my glory knight. Elvis didn't even slow down. His knight escort engaged Michael's guards while squires handled the bodyguards. Hida saw the Red Moon banner, confirmed we were friendly, and unleashed his mountain troops. 1,000 close combat specialists with cleavers and hammers flooded the battlefield. Meanwhile in the south, Pispic's fleeing cavalry ran face first into Lapa's infantry wall. No trenches prepared, no horse barriers set. Banks's plan changed too fast for proper fortification. The shield and spear line had to absorb a cavalry charge with nothing but muscle and courage. Longbow volleys thinned the charge. The mountain riders' hand shields blocked most arrows, but dozens still fell. Then the crossbows fired, Oran Empire steel-tipped bolts punching through foreheads. 4 siege crossbows salvaged from Sotu's walls launched arm-thick bolts that skewered multiple riders per shot, blasting entire rows off their horses. But 1,000 charging cavalry can't be stopped by ranged fire alone. They hit the spear line. Horses died screaming on pike points. Riders smashed into tower shields. Bodies piled up. Horses climbed corpse walls to leap into the formation. Shields cracked. Spearmen got their skulls caved by warhammers. The neat formation dissolved into close-quarters hell. Both battlefields, north and south, became identical, swirling chaos of steel, blood, and desperation. No more tactics. No more formations. Just survival. And in the middle of it all, my Red Moon flag flying for the first time on a real battlefield. 33 convicts counting heads for their freedom. 50 Betel warriors feeding their hungry axes. 200 heavy cavalry grinding through enemy formations. And Elvis, purple sword gleaming, hunting commanders like a wolf among sheep. Banks died buying time for this moment. His 500 lancers, half of them kids on their first battle, charged 3 times into twice their number and didn't stop until every last one was gone. First battle. Last battle. Same battle. They earned their place in history with blood. And Moonlight Fortress? We just announced ourselves to the continent by showing up at the exact right moment, killing an enemy general and turning a near defeat into a rout. The Crimson Knight orders first engagement. red moon rising over a field of enemy dead. Not bad for a territory that didn't exist 18 months ago. My grandfather Corleone, the Eagle of the North, 5-star general, once said, "Blood and death are the fastest way to turn a recruit into a veteran." He wasn't wrong. The battle reports from Sodu confirmed it. The White Cloaks chased down the last fleeing Cis cavalry. Both enemy 1,000-man banners got chopped down. Victory. Soldiers screaming and howling until their throats gave out. Then silence. Then crying. Then the slow, awful business of counting bodies. Civilians from Sodu, thousands of them, came out to help clean up, stripping armor, collecting weapons, everything stamped with resistance military seals. Oran Empire equipment had its original markings filed off. Everything cataloged. No looting, partly because of discipline and partly because my soldiers are rich enough not to bother stealing from corpses. Dog tags removed from the dead. Personal effects bundled with compensation money for families. No family. The money buys a better gravestone. That's the deal when you serve. You fight, you might die, and someone makes sure you're remembered properly. Cis Empire dead got stripped of everything valuable, especially heads, because heads equal bounty, then buried in mass graves. No time for cremation in frozen ground. No time for ceremony either. Cis reinforcements could arrive any day. Elvis met with Count Hitta and the resistance leadership. Tense conversation. They're grateful we showed up, but not stupid. They know the Oran Empire supports them to bleed the Cis Empire, not out of charity. They accept help because they have no choice, not because they trust us. Elvis played it perfectly. Dropped the names of Oran contacts already embedded in the mountain camps. Established credibility. Then described Moonlight Fortress, rich territory. Lots of land. Strong military. Only problem? Not enough people. Translation: give us your civilians, and we'll protect them. Elvis pushed harder. The Cis Empire will send a bigger army within 10 days. You can hide in the mountains, but so does 30,000 civilians? They're dead if they stay. And your mountain camps can't absorb 30,000 more people. Hitta thought for a moment. Let us ask the civilians what they want. If they choose to go, we support it. If not, we carry them into the mountains ourselves. Respectable answer. These people protect their own, even when their own might be better off somewhere else. Now, my casualties. This is the part that hurts. Beta warriors, 26 dead. They led the charge into the most desperate fighting. Cornered enemies fighting like rabid animals. 26 axes that will never swing again. Heavy cavalry, 34 dead, 17 critical, 68 wounded. They were the game-changer unit, and changing games cost lives. Every one of those riders learned the hardest battlefield lesson. No matter how good your armor, a cornered enemy becomes either a lamb or a beast. And you won't know which until they're swinging at your face. Knights, 3 dead. All young. All became brave knights just last year. If they'd stayed in Rhine City, they'd be alive. Training, laughing, planning futures. But they came here because they wanted to matter, and maturing sometimes means dying on foreign soil for someone else's war. Elvis lost people too. That weighs on him. I could read it between the lines of his report, the carefully neutral language, the precise numbers, the absence of commentary. That's how military men process grief. They count it, file it, and carry it silently. Then the convicts arrived at Elvis's position. 13 survivors from the criminal brigade, grinning like lunatics, human heads dangling from their belts. 3 heads minimum per person. Every single one had earned their freedom through decapitation. They were strutting around the most horrific battlefield imaginable, showing off their trophies like kids with Halloween candy. Then they stopped. Stood there. Lost. Because after 2 years of being told what to do every second of every day, they suddenly had no instructions. Freedom arrived, and they didn't know what to do with it. So they walked up to Elvis and waited for orders. Elvis yelled, "You idiots. Stop showing off. Wounded go get treated." Everyone else helped clean the battlefield. They scattered like scolded puppies. But what Elvis actually did with that yelling was accept them, treating them like soldiers, yelling at them the same way he yells at his knights. Not as prisoners, not as criminals, as equals. That's Elvis's version of kindness. Screaming at you means he considers you human. 5 days later, in Angara City, Prince Teague, seat 9 of the Council of 10, received news that made him grip his golden sword hilt so tight his knuckles went white. Both 1,000-man cavalry units, destroyed. Total loss. Only 50 light cavalry escaped. Both commanders Mihail and Pispik, presumed dead. His personal agent Lizrel, confirmed dead. Head currently displayed on a pole above Soda's empty city walls, courtesy of a Hashishin mercenary who collects skulls as a hobby. 2,000 elite cavalry. Gone. Wiped out by rats in a territory that didn't exist 2 years ago. The Crimson Knight orders first battle. Red moon rising over enemy dead. Moonlight Fortress announced to the world in blood. And somewhere in a frozen field, 26 Betel warriors, 34 cavalry riders, and 3 young knights sleep forever under the snow. They believed in me enough to cross a continent and fight someone else's war. I read the casualty list in my study. Every name, every age, every hometown. Grandfather was right. Blood turns recruits into veterans. But nobody mentions what it turns their commander into. Something harder. Something colder. Something that reads 63 names on a piece of paper and thinks, this is the price. And I'll pay it again if I have to. Because the alternative is worse. The alternative is those names meaning nothing. They won't. Not while I'm alive. So I've been reading everything I can get my hands on. Dad's archives, Dracula's knowledge, ancient texts, Bilak's notes, and I've pieced together a picture of this world that is frankly terrifying in scope. There aren't just continents. There are 7 known worlds, like separate realities stacked next to each other with a cosmic buffer zone called subspace between them. My world, the star realm, is just one. The eastern continent is a chunk of land surrounded by endless ocean with an ELF empire somewhere to the west. Elves. I haven't even dealt with elves yet, and I already have too many problems. Then there's the demon lair, where actual demons live, not the demon folk, north of the Gert Mountains. Real demons. Resource-poor world, so they're basically an entire civilization built around invading other worlds to steal stuff. They have a legendary artifact called the Demon God's Whispering Gate that converts their physical bodies into energy, shoots them through subspace, and reassembles them in another world. Takes 1,000 years to recharge between uses. Here's the kicker. 1,000 years ago, the gate opened on the eastern continent. Landing zone. North of the Gert Mountains. The demons poured through. Merlin sealed the exit with ultimate magic. The demons panicked and shut down the gate from their side, and most invaders got vaporized. But the demons' unique magical essence contaminated the local humans. Those humans mutated into what everyone now calls demons. The horned people north of the Gert Mountains. They're not aliens. They're transformed humans. The Forsaken. Merlin couldn't bring himself to kill them. They were still people underneath, so he built the Gert Mountain Barrier to keep them separated instead. The Gert Forest Barrier was basically a side project he threw in because the forest connects to the mountains. The demon raids that terrorize northern villages? Those are mutated humans sneaking through weak spots in a 1,000-year-old magical firewall. The entire northern defense strategy of the Empire is based on containing what is essentially a magical contamination incident from 10 centuries ago. My brain needed a minute after processing that. Then there's the Light Realm. No physical beings, just consciousness entities operating on a higher dimensional plane. They built a cosmic network that channels energy through the Great Vortex into physical worlds. Church priests tap into this network through faith, receive energy back, and call it divine blessings. The light beings themselves? They don't need faith. Collecting it might just be a casual experiment for them. The entire Church of Light, with its cathedrals, crusades, and political influence, might exist because some higher dimensional beings are running a science project. Dragon Nation, exactly what it sounds like. Hierarchical Dragon Society. Ancient dragons, metallic dragons, chromatic dragons, mutant dragons, dragon servants. Dragon God exists in their legends. They travel between worlds either by brute forcing through the Great Vortex or converting to pure energy and swimming through subspace. Only the most powerful individuals can manage either method. The Great Vortex itself is an infinite energy storm connecting 4 worlds. Everything that enters gets shredded. It's the universe's blender. The Abyss, demon lords ruling a hellscape. Different from the demon lair demons. More demons. Because apparently one demon world wasn't enough. And then there's world number 7, my pocket dimension. not a physical space, an independent world that I access through consciousness projection. Everything I create inside is a projection that becomes real when I materialize it with spiritual energy. This is why duplicated items match the physical laws of whatever world I bring them into. Now, lifespans, because this determines everything about power dynamics. Slaves live to 50, free citizens to 65, rich people to 70, regular nobles to 70 to 100. Knights range from 80 to 200 depending on rank. Saint knights can exceed 200. Mages? Ridiculous. Apprentices live to 100. Mid-level like me? Up to 300. Archmages? 1,000 plus. And Merlin? Effectively immortal unless someone kills him. Dracula is 65 and looks 25. Now I understand why she wasn't bothered when I said I was 51. To a mage, 65 is young. Dwarves live 150 to 500. Dragonborn get 150 to 300. The demon folk up north? Only 50, because they inherited the low-tier demon template. High reproduction, short lives, strong bodies, primitive culture. They're basically stuck in a tragic cycle that nobody caused on purpose. Elves across the Western Ocean? 500 to 3,000 years. And they reproduce slowly, so there aren't many of them. Quality over quantity taken to a civilizational extreme. Church holy men who receive divine blessings can live to 500. The life blessing miracle can directly extend someone's natural lifespan, but only works once per person, only on believers, and costs the caster enormously. Reserved almost exclusively for dying popes. And those fringe cults. Black goats worshipping actual abyss demons. The inverted cross society treating divine power as harvestable fuel. The sons of man psychopaths who prove their gods by massacring villages. They all have their own sketchy methods of gaining power and occasionally extending their lives. I'm 21. I'm a mid-level mage with a spirit C, which puts my potential lifespan somewhere around 200 to 300 years. My knights will live to maybe 150 at best. My civilians? 65 if they're lucky. I have time. My people don't. Every year I spend studying is a year some of them won't get. 7 worlds. Cosmic energy networks masquerading as gods. Demon invasions sealed by magical firewalls. Dragon societies sleeping under oceans. Transformed humans being slaughtered for a contamination they didn't choose. And me, one guy with a pocket dimension, a mage girlfriend who doesn't know she's my girlfriend, and an army held together by potions and speeches. The scope of what I'm dealing with just went from continental politics to multiversal implications. Deep breath. One step at a time. First, win the war. Then, figure out who's pulling strings across dimensions. No big deal. Just a 21-year-old baron versus the fundamental structure of reality. I've had harder mornings. Probably. Maybe. Let me check my notes and get back to you. The convoy from Sotu was making its way east through Cis Empire territory, getting ambushed by local garrison patrols 6 times along the way. These bottom-tier Cis soldiers saw a refugee column and thought, easy pickings. Kill a few, steal their stuff, grab some women. Standard Imperial hospitality. They didn't know Eagle Territory Knights were riding escort. Every single raiding party got deleted before they could touch the refugees. The local garrisons had no idea about the Soda disaster because Prince Teague was too busy rage assembling a revenge army to bother informing his own outposts. Thanks for the information blackout, Your Highness. Really helped. Back home, I kicked into maximum coordination mode. Sent 20 knights and 300 cavalry from Moonlight Fortress. Mobilized over 1,000 relief squad members through Green's deputy. Had Alvin personally lead the reception party toward Red Mountain to meet the convoy. Then I did something I'd never done before. Used the magic mirror. These things are expensive. They burn Siberia crystals for power, and I'm usually too cheap to waste crystals on video calls. But this was important enough to splurge. I connected to Dad's study. An old mage living in the mansion poked his head out a window and yelled for Hawk. Then Dad and Hawk arrived. The old mage pumped magic into the mirror, and my face appeared on their end. First time using it. So naturally, I shoved my face way too close to the crystal. You've never used this before. What happened? Dad asked. I never used it because I didn't want to waste crystals. It's not like these things are rare technology. Get to the point. I'm busy. So I sent Elvis to the former Volan Kingdom territory to recruit some people. My territory is new, we need population, didn't want to bother Eagle territory, figured we'd take advantage of the Cis Empire's mess. The point. Right. The people are still in Cis territory heading toward Red Mountain. I sent reinforcements, but I'm worried something might go wrong. Could you ask the uncles in Eagle territory to help with the escort? How many people? 38,000. Silence. Dad's face did something I've never seen before. It froze. For maybe 3 full seconds, the most powerful border count in the Empire had no words. Then he coughed. I meant, how many people do you need for the escort? Your call. Fine. I'll contact Vigo. And when this is done, you personally thank your uncles. The way he stressed, uncles, told me his teeth were probably cracking from being clenched so hard. No problem. I just restocked. Potions, enchanted gear. I've got plenty to share. He disconnected without saying goodbye. Rude, but understandable. After I hung up, apparently Hawk said to Dad, the young master's getting a bit cocky. I'm worried someone might target him. Belair follows him around, but one person at MY level would go through 3 Belairs. Dad, how many people on the Eastern Continent can beat you? Last time a Saint Knight showed up near my son, it was Roland. Thank the gods for that. If it had been someone hostile, my boy would be dead, and I couldn't even get revenge because we'd lose the fight. Then the old mage chimed in. Once old. Count Corleone comes back from the east. We'll have more leverage. All this sneaking around is suffocating. This led to Hawk and the old mage bickering like an old married couple. Hawk called the mage out for talking tough. The mage, who's apparently an archmage, fired back that he could fight any other archmage. Dad had to literally tell them to stop. Then the real intel dropped. Grandpa Corleone is alive. He's in the east, fighting alongside another archmage named Raphael's teacher, a necromancer who likes playing hero, helping some king named Micrus defend against a half-orc invasion. There's something called the Curse Ring that's been broken for decades. Grandpa committed to 30 years of service under an old agreement, not coming home until the half-orcs retreat. My grandfather, a titled knight at minimum, possibly higher, is on another continent fighting half-orcs alongside a necromancer archmage. And nobody told me. The Mulan family has so many secrets. Dad also revealed, Steel Fortress rejected the Northern Alliance proposal. Grand Duke Purtis only cares about demon containment at the Gert Mountains. Everything else isn't his problem. Baron Balan in the Golden Pillar province is thinking about it, but scared of crossing the royal family. Dad's decision, let his spy Isasha handle Balan. And the eastern part of the Golden Pillar province? Leave it for the kid to figure out. The kid? That's me. Dad just casually assigned me an entire province's eastern flank as my sphere of influence and called it a training exercise. Meanwhile, Thomas was about to storm my castle demanding to know if I'd abandoned my duties for a woman. Everyone thinks I'm spending all day with Dracula. In reality, I've been locked in my secret room mass-producing potions and enchanted gear in my pocket dimension like a factory worker. My small world is back. It's bigger than ever. The production line is running. Crates of equipment stacked outside the cabin again. Medicines flowing. I walked out of the secret room, stretched, and said to nobody, another productive day, then realized I'd developed what my old world calls office worker energy, that soul-deep weariness of someone who's been grinding spreadsheets. Except my spreadsheets are enchanted armor and my office is a pocket dimension. 38,000 new citizens incoming. Pocket dimension fully operational. Dad mobilizing Eagle Territory's finest for escort duty. Grandpa fighting half-orcs on a foreign continent. An archmage and a titled knight bickering in Dad's study like children. The Milan family is so much weirder than I thought. And I thought we were pretty weird already. Day off. Sort of. Dracula had been nagging me for days about being bored in Rhine City, and I needed fresh air too. So the 4 of us, me, Dracula, Skin, and Belair, went undercover to Tuan City. No crests, no banners. Just a merchant's son and his sister with an old coachman and a servant. Totally inconspicuous. Except I'm apparently too handsome and Dracula is too beautiful for anyone to believe we're regular merchants. Our disguise was undermined by genetics. Tuan City is the eastern Golden Pillar province's biggest hub, almost as large as Rosa City's outer south quarter, but with more residential areas. It's a trade crossroads controlled by a coalition of local nobles led by Count Darien, with City Lord Normanf running daily operations. The nobles don't live here. They sit in their castle estates, collect profits remotely, and show up once a month for group meetings. Convenient arrangement if you're a lazy aristocrat. This coalition is like carbon fused into steel. Try to insert yourself, and you get rejected by the whole structure. That's why Moonlight Fortress hasn't cracked this market despite all my trade network efforts. Breaking this group requires either overwhelming financial incentives to peel members away or an external shock that reshuffles everything. Like, say, a war. But I wasn't here for trade negotiations. Hawk gave me a little homework assignment. Before I left the capital, find a specific person in Tuan City. His only clue: everyone in Tuan City knows him. You know him too. Helpful. Thanks, Hawk. Really narrowed it down. Dracula immediately turned into a tornado of tourism, darting in and out of every shop, sampling street food, tossing skinned silver coins at buskers in the Flying Horse Plaza, watching street performers with zero ability to stay focused on one thing for more than 30 seconds. She's 65 years old and has the attention span of a squirrel. We passed one of Elena's brothels. I speed-walked past it like the building was on fire. If Elena had been there and come running out to bow respectfully in front of me, my reputation with Dracula would have been incinerated. Oh, is the Lord a regular customer? No. I own the establishment. Which is worse to explain. Keep moving. Don't make eye contact with the building. An angry blacksmith near the church was muttering about how monks are all scoundrels and adulterers, and women should be banned from entering churches. Somewhere behind his rant was a personal tragedy I chose not to investigate. This world's relationship drama hits different when religion is involved. I searched the entire plaza for Hawk's mystery person. Nothing. Dracula conveniently got tired and demanded food. Her exhaustion was about as convincing as a wolf pretending to be a sheep, but nobody called her out because we all wanted lunch too. We found a restaurant called Rampa Homeland. The owner spent 10 minutes explaining his family's Rampa Kingdom heritage and how his food is the most authentic in the entire province. Dracula was already drooling. I wasn't listening. Belair was uncomfortable sitting at the same table as me. Skin sent the owner to personally supervise the kitchen, ostensibly to watch the cooking, actually to make sure nobody poisoned us. Cost: 1 gold coin to buy the owner's cooperation. While waiting for food, the answer hit me. Everyone knows him. You know him too, City Lord Normanf. The guy who handled Raymond's head parade through Tuan City a year ago. The man who muttered, "Young people are so dramatic," and let my knights ride through his streets unchallenged. Of course I know him. And of course everyone in Tuan City knows their own mayor. Hawk didn't send me to find a hidden spy. He sent me to find the most obvious person in the city. The lesson? Sometimes the answer is right in front of you, and you're too busy looking for something complicated. I asked a random diner to confirm. Do you know who the city lord is? Is that a joke? Everyone knows Lord Normanf. Where would I find him? Where else would a city lord be except the city lord's mansion? I paid for their meal and headed out. Time to visit Normanf and figure out why Hawk considers him important enough to be my homework assignment. Dracula was still eating. Some battles you fight with swords, some with diplomacy, and some with the patience required to wait for a 65-year-old mage to finish her 4th dessert course.